Well, it's a brand new week, and we have not come close to meeting our goals for this particular pledge drive. I realize, you know, we're heading into political season, and there's a lot of people with their hands out and asking for money. Free Speech TV is one of them. I totally get that. Free Speech TV, however, is this extraordinary source of good, solid, consistent, reliable, believable, credible, honest, progressive information. I go to great lengths to try to make sure that anything that I say on my program is absolutely factual, and when I do get something wrong, to correct it on the air. And I know that that's true of at least my colleagues on this network who I personally know, and that's a bunch of them. And I'm quite sure it's true of everybody on this network. I'm quite sure that the network wouldn't have somebody who didn't hold those kinds of standards, unlike what you see on right-wing media, you know, on Fox so-called news and stuff like that, where people just go on and just say whatever, you know, whatever happens to pop into their brains, or whatever, you know, the lie du jour is for the day. So if you want to continue to have access to this kind of high-quality information that, you know, the people who are putting these shows together, I know Randy spends hours on her show, Stephanie, Louise and I do on ours, David does, you know, one of the most difficult things to do in media, and you're probably getting this from these pitches, which I'm kind of doing off the top of my head, but one of the most difficult things to do is to do a planned program where you do the research and you organize the information and then do it in a way that doesn't seem planned, that seems completely natural, and it just comes across, right? It's just one of the easier it looks, the harder it is. And I'm telling you, we work hard on this program, and the people I know for a fact that the other people that I've mentioned and that I know who are on this network, most of whom I think I helped bring into this network, also work really, really hard to make their programs work and make them sing and make them have value to you. Well, it's Tuesday to get an autograph. Thom Hartmann University, a proud student of Thom Hartmann University. It doesn't take a lot of people, but it does take something, and that's where you come in. So about the premiums, there is, with a $20 gift today, there's the Free Speech TV Clear sticker, the Thom Hartmann University, proud student of Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, or the Free Speech TV bumper sticker. Those three options are available to you with a $20 gift. With a $50 gift, there's the Free Speech TV seed bomb. You can celebrate Earth Day every day. With a $75 gift, there's the Free Speech TV hat or the Free Speech TV mug, and only available from Free Speech TV and only available here. Although I have occasionally seen one for sale on eBay, so you never know. With a $100 gift, there's the Free Speech TV will plant a tree for reforestation on your behalf. With a $120 gift, the only way on earth, unless you're one of my next door neighbors, to get an autographed copy, and even I'm not even hanging out with my neighbors yet, but to get an autographed copy of The Hidden History of Big Brother in America, How the Death of Privacy and the Rise of Surveillance Threaten Us and Our Democracy, is to make a $120 contribution right now to Free Speech TV at 877-378-8669. And I think you will find this book shocking, enlightening, and valuable, useful. Protect yourself and your computers. Or with a $120 gift, there's the Free Speech TV Solidarity t-shirt. With a $240 gift, we have two choices now. There's the basic choice of join our meet and greet, you know, hang out with me and more or less a dozen other people for an hour on Zoom, and we can talk about whatever's on your mind, whatever you want to talk about. But now Free Speech TV has a brand new premium. It is the Banned Book Box. And not only can you get this with a $240 one-time gift, but more importantly, into our theme of this week of regular monthly contributions, you can get it by just signing up with a $20 gift and telling Free Speech TV, continue taking that $20 out of my credit card every month until I tell you to stop, or for a year. You know, $20 a month for a year is $240. That math even I can do, and the Banned Book Box is really cool. It's got three of the top most frequently banned books in America. The Bluest Eye, a novel by Toni Morrison. Mouse, which is an illustrated graphic novel that's based on the author's parents' experience of living in Nazi Germany. Or Beyond Magenta, Transgender Teens Speak Out. This is by Susan Kuklin, or Kuklin, Kuklin. My apologies for not knowing how to pronounce it. And the story of being trans in America. This is important stuff. You're seeing, three different really important perspectives that Republicans in state houses across the United States don't want you to see. So that's available to you with a $240 one-time gift or a $20 a month commitment. And without.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And greetings, my friends, patriots, lovers of democracy, truth, and justice, believers in peace, freedom, and the American way. Thom Hartmann here with you. We got a lot to talk about today. Putin has begun a paranoid purge of his leadership. Zelensky just addressed the Canadian Parliament and essentially begged for them to participate in or help influence America to, or the rest of the world, to close the airspace over Ukraine. The leaders of 4 of the Baltic states are meeting in Kyiv today, which is a pretty amazing statement. So that's kind of all going on the surface. Zelensky will be speaking to the United States Congress tomorrow. I'm guessing the speech will be pretty much the same deal, but that's what's happening there. Also, I want to get into the Supreme Court. It's now coming out that Ginny Thomas was up to her eyeballs in January 6th, or at least in the Trump rally part of it. And, the Supreme Court's approval is just going through the floor. And, well, I'll get into that in just a minute about what we can do about the Supreme Court. And, why don't we have cameras in the court? Why isn't the court compelled to participate, follow the canon of judicial ethics, et cetera? Also, does Russia want Alaska? Seriously. We've got a Russian legislator talking about, hey, it's time to take Alaska now. Do we need nukes? No, we can do this. So we'll get into that in the first hour. In the second hour, I want to get into how Donald Trump's call to Ukraine helped Putin. I guess we all know the general outline of it. It was the subject of the impeachment probe, but the first impeachment probe. But there's more to the story, and I'll share that with you in the second hour of the program. Also, why is America ignoring the increasingly violent rhetoric coming out of the Republican Party? We'll get into that in the second hour. Stochastic terrorism, anybody? I'll fill you in on that. And in our third hour, Joe Manchin has joined the GOP in tanking a nominee for the Fed, Jamie Raskin's wife, by coincidence, because, she's extraordinarily qualified for this job. But she's not a big fan of fossil fuels. And also, Joe Manchin has come out and said, I don't see the need for electric cars. Right? This is the guy who has taken more money from fossil fuel interests than any other member of Congress. Surprise, surprise. So, to begin, the Supreme Court, the Constitution of the United States says very clearly in Article 3, Section 2, that the Congress shall regulate the Supreme Court and provide exceptions to what the Supreme Court can rule on. I wrote an entire book about this, The Hidden History of the Supreme Court and the Betrayal of America, and, interviewed some of the greatest legal minds in America and all that sort of thing, and quote, people going all the way back to the founders of the country. And it's just astonishing what is going on right now in the court. I mean, no other federal court in the nation would allow a defendant in a case before them to fly a judge on a private Gulfstream luxury jet to a luxury hunting retreat in Louisiana, and then a week later watch as that judge rules in that defendant's case. But that's what Scalia did with Dick Cheney. No other federal court would allow a judge to give a speech before a group that was funding a case before them and then rule in that group's favor. And yet that's what Neil Gorsuch did with the Fund for American Studies and the Bradley Foundation. And the AFSCME case. No other federal judge would allow, or federal court would allow a judge to swear revenge against a particular nonprofit corporation. In this case, the Democratic Party, like beer bong Brett Kavanaugh did when he said, you know, what goes around comes around. No other federal court would allow a judge to rule in a case where he owned $500,000 worth of stock in a company, you know, presenting amicus briefs. In fact, it's illegal in some states. But John Roberts did just that in the ABC versus Herrero case. And that's not the only one. Out of 37 cases where members of the court owned significant quantities of stock, in 27 of them, Roberts, Breyer, and Alito ruled in favor of the company whose stock they owned, according to the group Fix the Court. And no other federal court would openly allow a judge's wife to interact and advocate for the interests of dozens of litigants before the court over decades. And now the court is on the verge of gutting the Environmental Protection Agency, and they're doing this using this BS textualist rationale that Neil Gorsuch has come up with, whose mother, by the way, had to resign after 3 years of running the EPA under Reagan in a cloud of controversy and scandal. So, you know, what's going on here? it's Article 3 of the Constitution says the Supreme Court shall have appellate jurisdiction both as to law and fact, with such exceptions and under such regulations as the Congress shall make. And, you know, the power to establish and regulate the court is well established, Article 3 of the Constitution. We've seen it happen over and over again throughout our history. When John Adams was president and he saw that Thomas Jefferson was coming in the election of 1800, he didn't want Jefferson to be able to fill an empty Supreme Court seat, and so he got the Federalists in Congress to regulate the Supreme Court and reduce the number of justices on the court. Jefferson came in and increased it back up to where it was. When Andrew Johnson became president after Lincoln was assassinated, Johnson was a slave owner. He was friendly to the South. It was a terrible decision on Lincoln's part to make him his running mate. He thought it would heal the country, right? Look how that worked out. But Andrew Johnson, the Republicans at that time, Johnson was a Democrat. He was arguably. In any case, the Republicans who controlled Congress reduced the size of the court so that Johnson couldn't put somebody on the court. And then after Johnson was left and Ulysses Grant came in, they increased the size of the court again. And you know, that was the last time there was a significant regulation, as it were, of the court. But I am of the opinion, and I know a number of judicial scholars are, notwithstanding the trolls on Twitter, that Congress has the power to say that the Supreme Court shall operate at least operate in a reasonable fashion, or operate under the Judicial Code of Conduct. In fact, what the Constitution says is that members of the court, the judges both of the Supreme and inferior courts, shall hold their offices during good behavior. Well, who defines good behavior? Well, if the Constitution is putting Congress in charge of the court, I would say that it's Congress, and Congress gets to do that through, you know, the things like the Code of Conduct. So, and I tell this story. This is all in my piece today on HartmannReport.com, titled "Congress Should Be Regulating the Corrupt Supreme Court. Where Are They?" That, you know, back in 1921, William Howard Taft, who had been president, he was our 27th president. He became the 10th Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court, the only person to serve in both positions. And, you know, he's the one who came up with a lot of the, you know, the Code of Judicial Ethics. And yes, the Supreme Court has completely ignored it ever since. It got updated in 1973. The Supreme Court still is ignoring it. And frankly, I think, you know, if the court wants to continue to function as a credible institution, you know, it's really time for Congress to say, okay, guys, we're going to do something about this. So, also, by the way, this is a new poll from C-SPAN and PeerPoint Analytics that they found that 84% of Americans think the court's decisions have an impact on their lives, and 2/3 of Americans want cameras in the Supreme Court. Again, this is something that Congress could mandate. 65% of voters think the oral argument should be televised. 70% think that would build trust in the court's rulings and their proceedings and their process. If the members of the court want to behave like politicians, let's show them to the public the way politicians are shown to the public. I am absolutely down with that, and I think it should happen. So I'll tell you about the also about the purges that Putin is now undertaking on the other side of this break. And Russia wants Alaska? Seriously? Stick around. It's 15 minutes past the hour here on the Thom Hartmann Program. Talk media for the sane among us.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Sean says, if they want Alaska, we'll give them Wasilla. No, I don't think so. Not even Wasilla. 15 minutes past the hour. And welcome back. Omar in Herndon, Virginia. Hey, Omar, what's on your mind today?
The prophet, truth, justice, democracy, peace, prosperity, common good, and American way, Tom. How you doing?
Good. What's up?
I have good news for you. I don't know if you heard, I'm sure you did, Andrew Wheeler has been rejected by Virginia Senate to head the EPA in Virginia.
Oh, cool. Cool.
Yeah.
Wheeler was the EPA chief under Trump, right? If I'm remembering.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah, he was was he an oil lobbyist or a coal lobbyist? I forget which.
He was a coal lobbyist.
Coal lobbyist.
He was a coal lobbyist.
Thank you.
And Youngkin tapped him to run the EPA in Virginia. The Senate just rejected him, which kind of makes me feel good because I think Virginia is still blue.
Yeah.
But just to pick up on your rant, and I'm seeking to be educated here from you, Professor Tom. Was the Supreme Court always corrupt, or did the Republican corrupt the Supreme Court recently?
Well, that's a good question, Omar, and I frankly don't know the answer to it. It appears from, based on their judgments over the years, that they have gone through phases where they were arguably corrupt. I guess it depends on how you define corrupt. I think that this most recent behavior that we've seen since Scalia and Thomas were put on the court back in the 80s and 90s has been particularly egregious. Taking litigants hunting and things like that. I mean, that's beyond the pale. If that happened in the past, I don't know about it, and I've read a lot of books on the Supreme Court and their history. That said, though, the court has always been political. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, because I watched your interview you did with Nicole Sander about the Supreme Court, and you said that the person who decided Citizens United used to sit in the California court, and he also for 6 months, and he used to sit on the Supreme Court.
Oh yeah, that was 1886. You're talking about Justice Stephen J. Fields.
Yep.
And Fields was, we now know, because it's you can find it in the Library of Congress, which is where I found it, or the National Archives, excuse me. Stephen Fields was being paid off by the railroad barons. As I recall, Jay Gould himself was personally involved, in exchange for recognizing the corporate personhood of the railroads, which he did as the head of the Ninth Circuit. And again, this was in the 1880s. And he referred 5 cases from the Ninth Circuit up to the Supreme Court, and they're called the California tax cases. And in every single one of those 5 cases that he referred to the court itself, on which he also sat, because back in the day, they also used to they were in the D.C. for 3 months out of the year, 9 months out of the year, they quote rode the circuit. And those other 5 cases, in every single one of them, he was acknowledging the right of corporate personhood. And that all, of course, led to Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Yeah. And
that's how we end up with Citizens United. But regarding Ukraine, Tom, I think we need to get ahead of this situation in Ukraine. I really think that we need to have a meeting with EU, America, Canada need to have a meeting with Putin, because the closer this war, because I think Ukraine is going to become another Lebanon. You're going to have constant conflict in there. And I think we should get ahead of it, because the closer the more war goes, I think we're closer to World War III.
Yeah. I get what you're saying, Omar. I think, though, that I think if Putin wins and he takes Ukraine, then I believe then we're closer to World War III, because next he sets his sights on Moldova and then Poland and Hungary. and then the Baltic states. But there's disagreement about that in policy circles. I mean, literally both sides. Omar, thanks for the call. Missed my opening rant today? It's usually published over at HartmannReport.com, where you can read it and share it with your friends for free. Check it out, HartmannReport.com. An amazing story out of New Hampshire. The state legislature, this was after in Virginia, the new governor, Glenn Youngkin, who ran as a, I'm not Donald Trump, and then immediately put up a tip line for parents to turn in their, for parents to report their kids' teachers if they say something subversive. Now in New Hampshire, they've got a law that prohibits the dissemination of certain divisive concepts related to sex and race. Those divisive concepts being that people could be unconsciously racist. A conservative moms group has put up a $500 bounty in New Hampshire for the first person who could destroy the reputation and career of a teacher using this new law. So the teachers union sued the state of New Hampshire, and now the Republicans in New Hampshire, who control the state, are fighting back by putting up a new law that is going to require teachers to take a loyalty oath and ban any, quote, any negative account or representation of the founding and history of the U.S. It's nuts. There's a video about it over at ThomHartmann.com. Check it out. And welcome back. So what all is going on in Russia right now? And Putin's terror campaign. And an interesting question. Omar just called and raised this question. If Putin takes all of Ukraine and, accomplishes that, does that make World War III more or less likely? I think, frankly, it makes World War III more likely because it says to Putin, okay, you've done this with Georgia and South Ossetia and Crimea, there's really no penalty for taking other countries. And what's next? Moldova clearly is next. They're not part of NATO. And they're right on Ukraine's border between Ukraine and Poland. And then, of course, Poland after that. Well, actually, I think Hungary would go after that, and then Poland. And then they'd start working their way up the Baltic states, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. And maybe Finland. Who knows? I mean, Finland has a huge land border with Russia. Putin is trying to rebuild the old Soviet empire. He's not even hiding it. I mean, he's bragging about it. He gave a long, rambling, hour-long speech about it. This is not about NATO. This is about rebuilding Russia, or the Soviet Union, as it were. So, but things aren't going the way he wants. And personally, I'm of the opinion if we stop Putin in Ukraine and either negotiate a settlement or expel him, and I think that the negotiated settlement is more likely unless he gets brought down by an internal coup or something, some sort of palace intrigue. I think that then reduces the chances of World War III. The wild card, of course, in all this right now is China. The Chinese stock market this morning just tanked, and in part because of rumors and stories that China is going to be taking Putin's side in this conflict, and that then could lead to not necessarily a rapid crackdown on China, as it were, a rapid boycott of Chinese goods, rapid sanctions on China. I frankly doubt that's going to happen quickly because we are so dependent on China. Because of these neoliberal trade policies that Ronald Reagan and George Herbert Walker Bush negotiated and Bill Clinton put into place. I lived in China for the month of November 1986, and it was a very poor country at the time. Everything changed in the next couple of years, and as China adopted Alexander Hamilton's American plan rather than going down the neoliberal road that Russia had gone down. So, there's a huge wild card there and a big question. But what Putin is doing right now is the kind of thing that you saw as the war in Europe started going bad for Hitler. He's doing a purge. The first head to roll was Sergei Beseda. He was the head of the FSB. The FSB is the new version of the KGB, the intelligence service of Russia, and that Putin used to work for in East Germany. And he just fired the head of the FSB and put him under arrest. He also put into, fired and put under arrest Anatoly Boyko, who is the number 2 guy at the FSB. He was Beseda's deputy. The reason he said he's firing these guys and imprisoning them is because they've been embezzling money from the intelligence service. Well, that's the business model for Russia. It's a kleptocracy, among other things. I mean, the number 1 embezzler, obviously Putin himself. But now it's also being reported that 8 army generals have been purged. This from the Institute for the Study of War. Ukrainian Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council, Oleksiy Danilov, stated on March 9th that the Kremlin has replaced 8 generals due to their failures in Ukraine, although we can't independently verify that. But this is either to save face or in retaliation for bad intelligence. And he's ratcheting up the suppression of the American public. So what else is happening? Well, this is amazing. Just hours after Marina Avsenikova, I'm sure I'm mangling her name. She's the woman who held the, no war, they're lying to you sign on Russian television that has gone completely viral. Right after she was arrested, a member of parliament, Oleg Machayev, showed another clip of Tucker Carlson. They're playing Tucker Carlson like wall to wall on Russian state media all the time. And then he went on to say, after Ukraine's demilitarization is complete, we're going to raise the stakes. We're going to lift all the sanctions, the dissolution of NATO, because the presence of NATO is getting in our way, extradition of war criminals like Zelensky and Poroshenko. We should be thinking about reparations to Russia for the damage caused by the sanctions, the return of all Russian properties which have been seized by the United States. At that point, the host said, "Are you including Alaska?" And he said, "That was my next point, as well as the Antarctic. We discovered them. They belong to us." And then the host said, "Does your list include a tactical nuclear strike, or are we going straight for a strategic one?" The strategic strike, of course, is giant nukes taking out huge American cities. And this member of parliament said, "What for? We can take them down without it." So apparently the Russian members of parliament are believing the press in Russia that everything's going great. We're about to take down Ukraine. And what's next? Well, the rest of the former Soviet Union, we're going to take that, and then Alaska.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
How do you think this is going to play out? Not just here in the United States, but around the world. We'll be back with your calls after this. Well, it's Tuesday, and we've got a surprise new premium for you for contributing to Free Speech TV. Really want to emphasize this week, and I think it's so important. Regular monthly gifts, becoming a sustaining member or donor, joining the sustaining donor community of Free Speech TV. It's the way that a nonprofit like Free Speech TV can do some budgeting. I mean, it's really, really difficult to be trying to plan how you're going to run literally a multi-million-dollar company with a couple of dozen employees without knowing what your income is going to be. And this is a tight time, shall we say, and it's going to get worse in the fall because of all the politics. It's another one of these momentous election times. So we're really trying to emphasize this week, not just, hey, can you give $100 or $200 or whatever it may be, but also, or instead even, can you consider making a contribution of, say, $20 a month and just make it an ongoing basis? So that Free Speech TV knows that for the next year, they're going to have $20 a month from you and from hopefully thousands of other people, and that'll add up to real money. It doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take a lot of people, but it does take something, and that's where you come in. So about the premiums, there is, with a $20 gift today, there's the Free Speech TV Clear sticker, the Thom Hartmann University, proud student of Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, or the Free Speech TV bumper sticker. Those three options are available to you with a $20 gift. With a $50 gift, there's the Free Speech TV seed bomb. You can celebrate Earth Day every day With a $75 gift, there's the Free Speech TV hat or the Free Speech TV mug. And only available from Free Speech TV and only available here. Although I have occasionally seen one for sale on eBay, so you never know. With a $100 gift, there's the Free Speech TV will plant a tree for reforestation on your behalf. With a $120 gift, the only way on earth, unless you're one of my next door neighbors, to get an autographed copy, and even I'm not even hanging out with my neighbors yet, but to get an autographed copy of The Hidden History of Big Brother in America, how the death of privacy and the rise of surveillance threaten us and our democracy, is to make a $120 contribution right now to Free Speech TV at 877-378-8669. And I think you will find this book shocking, enlightening, and valuable. Useful. Protect yourself and your computers. Or with a $120 gift, there's the Free Speech TV Solidarity t-shirt. With a $240 gift, we have two choices now. There's the basic choice of join our meet and greet, hang out with me and more or less a dozen other people for an hour on Zoom, and we can talk about whatever's on your mind, whatever you want to talk about. But now Free Speech TV has a brand new premium. It is the Banned Book Box. And not only can you get this with a $240 one-time gift, but more importantly, into our theme of this week of regular monthly contributions, you can get it by just signing up with a $20 gift and telling Free Speech TV, continue taking that $20 out of my credit card every month until I tell you to stop, or for a year. $20 a month for a year is $240. That math even I can do, and the Banned Book Box is really cool. It's got three of the top most frequently banned books in America. The Bluest Eye, a novel by Toni Morrison. Mouse, which is an illustrated graphic novel that's based on the author's parents' experience of living in Nazi Germany. Or Beyond Magenta, Transgender Teens Speak Out. This is by Susan Kuklin, or Kuklin, Kuklin. My apologies for not knowing how to pronounce it. And the story of being trans in America. This is important stuff. You're seeing, three different really important perspectives that Republicans in state houses across the United States don't want you to see. So that's available to you with a $240 one-time gift or a $20 a month commitment for a year. The Banned Book box from Free Speech TV. And with a $1,000 gift, get in line to come here and hang out with us in Portland in our funky little studio. But here we are in this extraordinary time where there's literally a war going on for democracy, for the survival of Ukraine's democracy. There is, the autocracies of the world getting together. We've got within the United States now the Republican Party moving toward autocracy very, very rapidly, toward full-blown fascism, frankly, in my opinion. And the Democratic Party having a really substantial awakening, which we're seeing in this administration, and the Progressive Caucus becoming the new power brokers within the Democratic Party in Washington, D.C., and in state houses around the country. So there was never a better time to contribute to Free Speech TV than now and help keep progressive media going. 877-378-8669. Our 1-hour free podcast recaps our show, and it's available wherever fine podcasts are found. And we have the full 3-hour podcast available over at thomhartmann.com if you want to really support our program. So Marsha Martin on Twitter says, if Putin promised to keep Sarah Palin, an Alaskan deal might not be a bad idea for the U.S. Sean, you're being channeled. Oh, my. Also, with regard to the Supreme Court, I refer you to a piece by Nick Rostow, president, talking about, the need for a code of judicial ethics that Congress can impose on the Supreme Court. And he wrote a piece called Why the Supreme Court Needs an Ethics Code over on roll call. Geez, it was just November of last year he posted this. There's no shortage of these calls. In fact, in 2013, as I recall, Louise Slaughter in Congress introduced legislation specifically to impose a code of ethics on the Supreme Court. There are, in my opinion, and those of legal scholars like Rostow, multiple, who is a senior research scholar at the Yale Law School, a member of Checks and Balances. This is a group of conservative and libertarian lawyers standing up for the rule of law. He's also a senior partner at a law firm in New York City. Saying, yeah, this is something we can do. This is something Congress should do. This is something that the Constitution envisions. So I'll just leave it at that and pick up your phone calls. Should we offer Sarah Palin in exchange for peace in Ukraine? I say that entirely tongue-in-cheek. We'll see. This is actually a very serious, very sad, very tragic situation, and it's also a war crime. And the war criminals need to be held to account for it. Rob in Iron Mountain, Minnesota. Hey, Rob, what's on your mind today?
It's where long time no talk, Tom. It's where thanks for everything, and it's where you had a very impassioned lady yesterday that talked about abortion. I got a very impassioned situation here where I want to be able to take and start something. Chips for kids. It will drive the wall Republicans, conservatives nuts. Build a wall, people. Maybe some will lose vacations, but to help refugees and to relieve the countries bordering the Ukraine, use our ships, the vacation ships that we have out of Miami and all of the East Coast, and be able to take in with a little modification, start a lifeline from those bordering countries and use them to be able to take and transport them to the United States. It's where they have, we have many army bases to be able to take and use. As far as they have many rooms to be able to take and, be able to take and use them for the refugees. Why don't we start this to be able to take and, if we can't be able to take and bomb Russia, how about we save the refugees?
Yeah. I get what you're saying, Rob. The cruise ships are back in business now, and they're filling up fast. Some friends of ours, in fact, recently took a cruise. So I don't think that they're cheaply available, but they could be expensively available.
Our aircraft carriers.
And also I think that if you're talking about bringing white Christian refugees into the United States, you won't get the pushback from Republicans and conservatives that you get when you're talking about African or Muslim or Middle Eastern refugees. But that's an issue that has yet to pop up in a big way in the United States. It's worth keeping an eye on, though. Thank you very much, Rob. Rose in in Chicago, Illinois. Hey, Rose, what's up?
Hey, Tom. This is in regards to the draconian measures that the red states are doing to ban abortions, et cetera. Mm-hmm. If something like Roe v. Wade does get overturned, I don't think the Republicans are going to stop there.
No, of course not.
To the states.
You've got at least one Republican legislator calling for the death penalty for anybody involved with an abortion. You've got the state of Missouri looking at the possibility of prosecuting women for receiving morning after pills through the mail. Back to you.
And I don't just mean those different aspects of it, but I think that if they were to take over the House and the Senate and God forbid the White House, that they're going to try to swing the pendulum completely the other way and make it illegal at the federal level. And that goes for things that you just talked about too, all that kind of thing. So even people like me living in a blue state shouldn't think that we're safe from the right wing's motives. Everybody needs to get out and vote in every election. Don't do your protest vote or just sit it out. Everybody is at risk from the crazy stuff these people are doing.
Amen. I completely agree. Thank you very much for the statement. Darnell in Las Vegas. Hey, Darnell, what's up?
Man, Tom, it's like coming to class, man, when I listen to your show.
Thank you.
I got to admit, the last time I called, though, man, was when you had Joe Madison on as a guest. That's been a while.
Yeah.
But I do listen.
Did you say Joe Madison?
Yes, sir.
He's going to be on tomorrow. He's got a new book out called Radioactive, and I wrote a blurb for it, in fact, and it's just a brilliant, it's kind of an autobiography, and it's just a brilliant book. So we're going to do a half-hour-long deep dive into Joe's book with him tomorrow.
Great, great. Hey, listen, I got a question for you. Isn't this not, what does it take to increase the numbers in the Supreme Court? Does it take to have all the Congress or the House?
No, it takes a simple majority in the House and Senate unless somebody filibusters it in the Senate, in which case it takes 2/3.
Manchin. Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah.
Well, but it can be done.
It can be
done. The way they're
done.
going right now, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody might bring that to the table, man.
Yeah.
Because it's getting ridiculous.
Yeah, no, this is, that you know, the size of the court is one of the ways that Congress has repeatedly regulated the court. This issue of whether a code of conduct can be imposed on the court is a lot more ambiguous. It's never happened before. There are a couple of places in the Constitution, I think, that might justify it. The main one being that justices serve during good behavior. Well, what defines good behavior? Does that mean that the only way to deal with the justices that are behaving badly is impeachment? Or does that mean that Congress can define behavior of the court that's acceptable and unacceptable? I tend toward the latter. I know that there are some lawyers and legal scholars who tend toward the former. But this has not been adjudicated. It's not come before the Supreme Court. It hasn't been. Congress hasn't tried it. It's never been done. So I'm very clearly in the camp of we don't know yet, but the only way to find out is to try. And I think we need to do that. Darnell, thanks a lot for the call. It's great to hear from you. Tom in Pittsburgh. Hey, Tom, what's on your mind?
Hey, Tom, I got two quick questions for you. One is if Putin does or doesn't take Ukraine, do the sanctions stay? And secondly, if Putin is overthrown, who fills the vacuum? Does Russia go back to being a thugocracy?
Yeah, well, it definitely still is a thugocracy, and whether it would be Dmitry Medvedev, the guy who Putin was playing musical chairs with back in the early 2000s, or somebody else, I honestly don't know. I don't know what the line of secession looks like. And an awful lot, I think, Tom, would depend on if Putin leaves office, the circumstances under which he leaves office. I mean, whether there's a full-blown kind of Bolshevik revolution type of coup where the senior leadership at the Kremlin is just swept out and replaced with something else, or if it's going to be just one guy gets deposed, that being Putin, and he gets replaced by another, maybe a slightly friendlier face, but, part of the same oligarchy. It's, at this moment, at least from my point of view, unknowable. I don't know the answer to it, and I don't think anybody does, and that's why there's not much discussion of it, although it's probably a topic for which it would be a good idea for us to begin having a conversation, to get the world thinking about this, and perhaps most importantly, to get Putin thinking about it. Although I can guarantee you that long table that he's sitting at is not to protect him from germs. He is, full-blown paranoid, this guy. Tom, thanks a lot for the call. Morris in Long Beach, California. Hey, Morris, what's on your mind today?
I'll tell you, Professor, I want to first of all say that iron sharpens iron. I believe that President Biden can end all this controversy right now. All he's got to say is we've had a gentleman's agreement, and we're going to respect that gentleman's agreement, and we're not going to move any military equipment or arms anywhere around Russia that's intimidating. We don't want anybody to be considered an enabler. We don't want our arms sales companies, which is a lot of money, by the way. We don't want them selling any arms over there. And, we're going to go ahead and go back to honoring that gentleman's agreement. He could do that, but Mr. Biden is not driving the bus. The arm manufacturers, Tom, they driving the bus. They need a market. They got themselves one. But, we're not 100% on this one. Everything we are accusing the Russians of doing, we've done. Hell, we just play your tapes for the last 5 years. I don't call that critical race theory or cancel culture or wokeism. That's just reality. Just listen to your program and find out the same thing I know. So all he's got to do is just say we got a gentleman's agreement. I don't care if the Republicans are going to say, well, he's backing down. Yeah, back down to save humanity. If he said we got a gentleman's agreement here, we're not going to put no military stuff around.
So Putin is asking for Ukraine to be demilitarized. This is one of his main demands, that all weapons vanish from Ukraine. How do you think that's going to play out, Morris?
Well, I'm gonna tell you something, Professor. Look at the alternative. Look at the choices we're dealing with. Both of them, you got bad and worse. You got bad and you got worse. And worse is us expanding. That NATO, which is another way of saying United States and arms dealership, us expanding over there. We had a gentleman's agreement, Tom. You know it. We wasn't gonna do it. And now we're doing it anyway. And now that's facilitating other stuff. And everything we're accusing the Russians of doing, we've done. Look at what the Saudis are doing in Yemen. Look at what the Israelis are doing over there with the Palestinians. We ain't exactly 100% innocent on this one.
No, look at what we did with Iraq and Afghanistan and Vietnam. No, I get that point, Morris. I do think, though, that what we're looking at is an open assault on a democratic nation, on a democracy. And the other democracies of the world.
Now, let me cut you short. The democracy, we're not even a democracy. We got voter suppression going on right now. We got gerrymandering going on right now. These subliminal messages.
So we should just roll over and say, screw it, we're just going to become an oligarchy like Russia's Putin. Putin's
wait a minute, that's a false narrative. I didn't say roll over and become an oligarchy. My narrative is this. We ain't supposed to be expanding militarily. That's it. And that's where all this thing got started. We had a gentleman's agreement, and we violated it, Tom. It's on us. We got blood on our hands.
You're not talking about the Budapest Memorandum that was a gentleman's agreement that the United States and England would protect the borders of Ukraine against, a foreign invasion. Is that what you're talking about?
No, I ain't talking about that, but I'm talking about, I think it was Ronald Reagan and Brezhnev. What was those two old guys that got together?
Oh, it was George Herbert Walker Bush and I don't think it was Yeltsin. I think at that point it was Gorbachev. Yeah, George Herbert Walker Bush and Gorbachev was basically, yes, we want to expand NATO. That's
doing that.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, either NATO is a defensive or an offensive force, and
they are an offensive force. They shouldn't even exist in World War II. What are they doing running around selling? After World War II was over, that was it. No, but they kept it going. Kind of reminded me of King George III and slavery. He trying to end slavery, but the market was so good they couldn't say no to it. They had to keep it going. Same thing with these armed companies.
Yeah, I get your perspective. I disagree with it, Morris, respectfully. I see NATO as a defensive force, and I see the invasion of Ukraine by Russia as a sterling example why Europe needs to have a defensive force. That, every 40, 50 years, and between World War I and World War II, I guess it was, 20 years, we get these wild wars for territory breaking out in Europe. And, a defensive force, to me, seems like a reasonable thing. So I guess we'll have to agree to disagree. Morris, thanks for the call. I think it's the first time I've ever disagreed with you. 47 minutes past the hour. We'll be back with more of your thoughts right on the other side of this break. Stick around.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Talk media for the rest of us. Picking up your calls on the other side of this break. And welcome back. Charles in Santa Monica. Hey, Charles. Thanks for listening to KPFK. What's up?
Hey, a couple of quick things. First of all, I'd like to direct you to a very informative video over at Curiosity Nebula stream. It's called...
Charles, I'm not going to go watch it. You can tell me about it, but let's not promoting videos that I have no idea what the province of it is on this, on this program.
Why is Russia invading Ukraine? There's oil deposits in the Donbass and in the Crimea.
Oh, they're huge. And all across the country. There's, through the middle part of the country where they grow wheat, there's coal underground, and it can be easily fracked for gas and oil, too.
Right. So these are the areas that Putin has invaded and wants to hold, cuts off the entire Ukraine's access to the Black Sea, which is where a lot of these deposits are.
Yep.
And in the Donbass as well. So that would eliminate them being a competitor to Russia for natural gas to Europe.
I'm not sure that there's so much a competitor. I mean, right now, mostly because they haven't really developed their fossil fuel sector as well as they could. Mostly, you've got, 4 or 5 pipelines right now that go from Russia through Ukraine into Europe?
Right. So Ukraine is charging a huge royalty on those pipelines.
Right.
So anyway, that's that. And I disagree with you about NATO expansion, but that's a conversation we already had. So
yeah, well, disagree in what context? I mean, Morris was basically saying take down NATO altogether. I'm saying, let Moldova and ultimately Ukraine be members of NATO, but NATO is, in my opinion, a defensive force, and I think that this invasion proves that because the EU has no army. The European Union, literally every nation has a military, but they have no military and no military coordination. That's what NATO provides. So taking down NATO would be the equivalent in the Americas of kind of taking down the Defense Department.
Can we take your picture, okay?
You got to take that. You got to take that, Charles. I'll let you go. Thanks a lot for the call. Brian in Elkhart, Indiana. Hey, Brian, what's up?
Tom, good day.
Hey.
I was calling to push back on the point you made yesterday, and you've had some callers call in, about Democrats just automatically having to cast a vote for Democrats in the next election. I mean, how many years are we going to let Democrats fail us and keep lining back up to vote for them?
I'm not seeing Democrats failing us, Brian. I'm seeing a couple of Democrats fail us, and if you're saying that we shouldn't be voting for Joe Manchin or Kyrsten Sinema, I'm completely with you. But this narrative that is the main narrative ever since 2016 that has been promoted by Russian trolls on the internet, on social media, and is regularly promoted by some third-party candidates that both parties are corrupt and just give up on it, I think is not only completely wrong, I think it's extraordinarily counterproductive. I get it. It's one of the most effective ways Republicans have suppressed the vote. In my book on Big Brother, there's a whole chapter about how in 2016, the campaign that Cambridge Analytica put together on behalf of Donald Trump, specifically targeting Wisconsin was the example I used in my book, although they did it in 8 or 9 states. But in Wisconsin, the principal message that they delivered to hundreds of thousands of people in Wisconsin was both parties are the same, they're both corrupt, don't even bother voting. And the result of that was that the vote just in the city of Milwaukee dropped by 50,000 votes. Donald Trump won Wisconsin by 27,000 votes. So respectfully, your message is, I think, destructive to the future of America if you believe that Republican control is destructive to the future of America. Hey, thanks so much for sharing our program and for reaching out to our stations and sponsors and letting them know that you're listening. It really means a lot to us. So how do you know which party has the most crooks in it? The Republicans are always saying, oh, those Democrats, they're soft on crime and, a lot of murders in Democrat-run cities. Well, for the record, first off, red states and red counties have a higher per capita murder rates than do blue states and blue counties. This is just a fact. But secondly, let's look at some of the administrations. I mean, the Obama administration had no criminal indictments. The Jimmy Carter administration had 1. The Bill Clinton administration had 2. But what about the Republican administrations? It was 16 for George W. Bush. It was 26 criminal indictments for Ronald Reagan. Richard Nixon's administration had 76 criminal indictments. And of course, the full-time professional rapist and grifter, Donald Trump, he had 215 criminal indictments. So who's really soft on crime? We got a video about it over at ThomHartmann.com. You can check it out. And welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Bob in Kansas City, Missouri. Hey, Bob, what's on your mind today?
Well, hey, Tom. It's actually Rob, but
oh, Rob, I'm sorry.
Government work.
Got it. No, it's good. I'll fix it.
I was my mom, who was weaning off of Fox News and Donald Trump. She was kind of listening to Fox News about Ukraine, and they keep talking about how Trump would have been better handling Ukraine. And I said, Mom, this guy that started a Capitol insurrection, a riot, and he sat there with his legs folded. Probably, I don't know if he can fold his legs. He's kind of fat, but he watched it for 3 hours and did absolutely nothing to stop any of it. And I think his own daughter, Ivanka, was telling him to do something about it and did absolutely nothing. So how can anyone conclude that Trump would have done better outside his own zip code in Ukraine when he could not do anything about what he caused right here in his own zip code?
This is also the guy who refused to send $400 million worth of anti-tank weapons to Ukraine for a year because Zelensky wouldn't make a public announcement that he was going to investigate Joe Biden.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think that I don't know how we get our voices heard across, outside our, channels to say, where is the proof for that? Okay, if you're saying it, then, why are based upon what are you saying that? There's what's your basis of making a statement such like, oh, Trump would have been better, in this
there
situation.
Is no basis.
It was actually absolutely.
It's
and
a
of
fantasy.
course, he mishandled the pandemic on top of that, which, caused hundreds and thousands of needless deaths. And so I don't know, we keep going back to this cult phenomenon, but I hope we can get around that in this next election in 22 in November and hopefully score some points again, Manchin and Sinema, and continue our progressive agenda. I really, really hope, and I'm doing everything I can, donating money.
I'm with you, Rob. And apropos of the last caller who said, why bother voting for Democrats? Democrats brought us Social Security. Democrats brought us Medicare. Democrats brought us the right to unionize. Democrats brought us food stamps. Democrats brought. I mean, just name something. Any positive part of America. Gay rights, abortion rights, separation of church and state, tax fairness. Health care. Infrastructure. Just income inequality. The war on drugs. Oh, God. Anyway, Rob, I got to move on. But thank you for the call. Steve in Phoenix. Hey, Steve, what's up?
Hey, good morning, Tom. As I said before, you should be leading the Democratic National Party.
Thank you.
You got ideas.
We have less than a minute, though, Steve, to your point.
Hey, I'll get right on it. One thing here I'd like to do is get the translators that were at Helsinki between Trump and Putin. I'd like to have those folks summoned. Subpoenaed before Congress.
I agree. There was one American and one Russian, and there's some ambiguity about whether Trump had the American leave the room. He certainly had her tear up her notes.
Okay. There might be some memory there, but anyways, the big thing I want to do is Russia's not getting any real information. They got state-run TV. What we need to do, I heard this on MSNBC late in the evening last week from a former opposition leader in Russia, Vladimir Murza, M-U-R-Z-A, and he stated that he'd like to see Radio Free Europe. The BBC used to do stuff like that. Yeah. A number of different.
I'm not sure there's that many shortwave radios around, but I think that we're doing that, with social media, with Telegram, some of the sources. The problem is so many of the older Russians only get their TV, their information from TV. And just keep in mind, it took Americans 5 or 6 years to figure out that the war in Vietnam was a lie. It took us 3 years to figure out the war in Iraq was a lie. So to think that the Russians are going to figure out that the war in Ukraine is a lie in 2 months, it's kind of tough.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are HelloFresh, the #1 meal kit delivery service. More info at HelloFresh.com, code TOM. The hidden history of Big Brother in America, how the death of privacy and the rise of surveillance threaten us and our democracy, by Thom Hartmann. More information at all book outlets. Wild Alaskan Company, 100% sustainable wild-caught seafood delivered right to your door. More info at wildalaskancompany.com/Tom. Cozy Earth, better sleep, better you. More info at CozyEarth.com, promo code TOM. The latest views and opinions from U.S. politics and other fascinating subjects too, including cutting-edge science reports at HartmannReport.com. And Dinovite, a whole food supplement for your pet's immune system. More info at Dinovite.com.
We take life back!
Well, it's Tuesday, and we've got a surprise new premium for you for contributing to Free Speech TV. Really want to emphasize this week, and I think it's so important. Regular monthly gifts, becoming a sustaining member or donor, joining the sustaining donor community of Free Speech TV. It's the way that a nonprofit like Free Speech TV can do some budgeting. I mean, it's really, really difficult to be trying to plan how you're going to run literally a multi-million-dollar company with a couple of dozen employees without knowing what your income is going to be. And this is a tight time, shall we say, and it's going to get worse in the fall because of all the politics. It's another one of these momentous election times. So we're really trying to emphasize this week, not just, hey, can you give $100 or $200 or whatever it may be, but also, or instead even, can you consider making a contribution of, say, $20 a month and just make it an ongoing basis? So that Free Speech TV knows that for the next year, they're going to have $20 a month from you and from hopefully thousands of other people, and that'll add up to real money. It doesn't take a lot, it doesn't take a lot of people, but it does take something, and that's where you come in. So about the premiums, there is, with a $20 gift today, there's the Free Speech TV Clear sticker, the Thom Hartmann University, proud student of Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, or the Free Speech TV bumper sticker. Those three options are available to you with a $20 gift. With a $50 gift, there's the Free Speech TV Seed Bomb. You can celebrate Earth Day every day. With a $75 gift, there's the Free Speech TV hat or the Free Speech TV mug, and only available from Free Speech TV and only available here. Although I have occasionally seen one for sale on eBay, so you never know. With a $100 gift, there's the Free Speech TV will plant a tree for reforestation on your behalf. With a $120 gift, the only way on earth, unless you're one of my next door neighbors, to get an autographed copy, and even I'm not even hanging out with my neighbors yet, but to get an autographed copy of The Hidden History of Big Brother in America, How the Death of Privacy and the Rise of Surveillance Threaten Us and Our Democracy, is to make a $120 contribution right now to Free Speech TV at 877-378-8669. And I think you will find this book shocking, enlightening, and valuable, useful. Protect yourself and your computers. Or with a $120 gift, there's the Free Speech TV Solidarity t-shirt. With a $240 gift, we have two choices now. There's the basic choice of join our meet and greet, hang out with me and more or less a dozen other people for an hour on Zoom, and we can talk about whatever's on your mind, whatever you want to talk about. But now Free Speech TV has a brand new premium. It is the Banned Book Box. And not only can you get this with a $240 one-time gift, but more importantly, into our theme of this week of regular monthly contributions, you can get it by just signing up with a $20 gift and telling Free Speech TV, continue taking that $20 out of my credit card every month until I tell you to stop, or for a year. $20 a month for a year is $240. That math even I can do, and the Banned Book Box is really cool. It's got three of the top most frequently banned books in America. The Bluest Eye, a novel by Toni Morrison. Mouse, which is an illustrated graphic novel that's based on the author's parents' experience of living in Nazi Germany. Or Beyond Magenta, Transgender Teens Speak Out. This is by Susan Kuklin, or Kuklin, Kuklin. My apologies for not knowing how to pronounce it. And the story of being trans in America. This is important stuff. You're seeing, three different really important perspectives that Republicans in state houses across the United States don't want you to see. So that's available to you with a $240 one-time gift or a $20 a month commitment for a year. The Banned Book Box from Free Speech TV. And with a $1,000 gift, get in line to come here and hang out with us in Portland in our funky little studio. But here we are in this extraordinary time where there's literally a war going on for democracy, for the survival of Ukraine's democracy. There is, the autocracies of the world getting together. We've got, within the United States now, the Republican Party moving toward autocracy very, very rapidly, toward full-blown fascism, frankly, in my opinion. And the Democratic Party having a really substantial awakening, which we're seeing in this administration, and the Progressive Caucus becoming the new power brokers within the Democratic Party in Washington, D.C., and in state houses around the country. So there was never a better time to contribute to Free Speech TV than now and help keep progressive media going. 877-378-8669.
Is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome back to the second hour of our program. So TV terrorist Donald Trump is out there saying that his followers should be ready to lay down their lives for him. Right. What does that mean? Well, there's this concept called stochastic terrorism, where somebody calls out people in a way that doesn't explicitly say, go kill people, but does, and thus provokes terrorist actions by what are generally referred to as lone wolves. Is that what's going on here? This is from Donald Trump's speech this weekend, Saturday night in Florence, South Carolina. He says, and I quote, "Getting critical race theory out of our schools is not just a matter of values, it's also a matter of national survival. We have no choice. The fate of any nation depends on the willingness of its citizens to lay down, and they must do this, lay down their very lives to defend their country. If we allow the Marxists and communists and socialists to teach our children to hate America, there will be no one left to defend our flag and to protect our great country or its freedom." Right. Indivisible Sarah Dole said, calling for political violence to stop the teaching of accurate history in our schools. That's what fascism looks like. Condé Nast's legal affairs editor Luke Zielinski says Trump doesn't want a political party. He wants an army. He's a TV terrorist. And on it goes. But that's just the beginning. I mean, you want to look at the situation in Ukraine? This was set up by Donald Trump. I realize Fox News is out there going, oh, well, if Trump was still president, Putin would never have invaded Ukraine. No, he wouldn't have had to. Trump would have simply handed it to him. I mean, right now, one of the main reasons that Ukraine is able to hold off Russia is because we supplied them with anti-tank and anti-aircraft weapons. Those are our weapons that they're using to hold off Russians. And repeatedly, Trump left Ukraine hanging. I mean, it wasn't just the phone call, right? I mean, back, Trump was, he repeatedly said that Zelensky tried to take me down in 2016, right? Fiona Hill said in her testimony for Trump's impeachment, quote, "This is a fictional narrative that has been perpetrated and propagated by the Russian security services themselves. The unfortunate truth is that Russia was the foreign power that systematically attacked our democratic elections institutions in 2016, not Ukraine." Next, Trump personally froze $400 million of military aid to Ukraine, stuff that could take out tanks and aircraft. Defensive weaponry, by and large, and said, to Zelensky, Zelensky said, we're ready to take delivery of those Stinger missiles, and Trump said, well, yeah, but I want you to do me a favor. And on July 2nd, Ambassador Volker conveyed this message directly to Zelensky. He said it was the Giuliani factor. He said, I'm sorry, we can't get you these weapons. And I'm sorry that a White House meeting is not going to occur until you announce that you're pursuing an investigation into Joe and Hunter Biden. And then that ratcheted up again even further on July 25th with that phone call to Zelensky. And this was about buying Javelin anti-tank missiles, specifically. On August 28th, now we're a month later, Politico reported on the holdup of the aid. They said the same day Trump canceled a trip to Warsaw for a World War II commemorative event, he was scheduled to meet with Zelensky. Instead, he sent Mike Pence. At the meeting, and this is from Politico, at the meeting, President Zelensky expressed concern that even an appearance of wavering support for the United States from Ukraine could embolden Russia. Well, gee, that's exactly what happened. Zelensky buckled under the pressure. He booked an interview on CNN to announce that he was going to investigate, to do this investigation that Trump was demanding. He pulled out at the last minute, by the way. Good on him. But, you know, Trump's pressure on Ukraine and on Zelensky was not just one phone call. It was repeated. It lasted over a year. And it was about sending a message, in my opinion, to Russia that the United States would not defend Ukraine. Go ahead and take it. And surprise, surprise, that's what they're doing. The other issue that I think is really worth talking about is this insanely violent rhetoric from the Republican Party that is getting more and more serious. I mentioned stochastic terrorism earlier, where political figures or public figures make statements that activate or that trigger lone wolves to go out and commit political violence. They don't say, hey, Ralph, go out there and kill somebody. No, instead they just, say, well, somebody needs to die. And poof, off it happens. And the core tenet, the basis of fascism, whether it's in the United States or anywhere else, is the use of violence to achieve political ends. That is intrinsic to the whole idea of fascism. Political violence. And so what do we have now? Well, earlier this week, or actually late last week, I shared with you Rick Scott's 11-point plan to save America, which involves raising taxes on the bottom 61% of Americans, ending Social Security and Medicare within 5 years, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's a Republican wish list. And Rick Scott, that guy, the second richest guy in the United States Senate behind Mitt Romney, the guy who is, in my opinion, most likely going to be the Republican nominee for president in 2024, the guy who handles all the money going to Republicans who are running for election or re-election in the United States Senate, Rick Scott, he's got a multi-million-dollar slush fund here, essentially. He gave a speech, a keynote address, in fact, at CPAC. It was titled Awake, Not Woke. And I just have to share a couple paragraphs of this with you. This is, again, in the context of stochastic terrorism, of Republicans normalizing political violence. And can you imagine if this guy becomes president and he's still pitching this line that it's okay for Republicans to kill Democrats? Just listen to this. This is what Rick Scott said. He said, we survived the War of 1812, the Civil War, World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and the Cold War. But today, now keep in mind, these were all wars where Americans died and Americans killed a hell of a lot of people. He just recites them all. Yes, massive violence. And then he continues, but today we face the greatest danger we have ever faced. The militant left wing in our country has become the enemy within. So here you have a United States senator and the head Republican in charge of getting other Republicans elected to the Senate and the leading candidate for president in 2024 saying that Democrats are worse than the Nazis we fought in World War II. They're worse than Tojo and the Japanese fascists we fought in World War II. They're worse than the Confederacy that we fought in the Civil War. They're worse than Kim and the Chinese communists that we fought in Korea. I mean, really? They're worse than the British and the French who burned the White House in the War of 1812. He cites the War of 1812. He says the Democrats are worse than those people. He then continues. The militant left has, and I'm reading this is continuous. I'm not hopping around in his speech. This is, a 4-paragraph block here. The militant left has now seized control of our economy, of our culture, and of our country. Seized control. The woke left now controls the Democrat Party, the entire federal government, the news media, academia, big tech, Hollywood, most corporate boardrooms, and now even some of our top military leaders. They are destroying just about everything they touch, and they've got their hands on everything. This is not the time to be timid. This is the time to be bold. In their new socialist America, everyone will obey, and no one will be allowed to complain. If you do speak up, boom, you will be canceled. This is the kind of language that fascist dictators use. This is Vladimir Putin language. This is Viktor Orban language. This is Mussolini language. This is how you tear a country apart, by saying my political opponents are evil and they're trying to destroy the country, and the battle is even a more consequential battle than a war in which we lost hundreds of thousands of soldiers. We have to be ready to, and then you got Donald Trump saying Americans should be ready to lay down their lives, which is kind of where I started this out. We've got a serious problem here.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
I don't know what it's going to take for the Republican Party to wake the hell up and go back to being just a normal political party. Right now, it's become a right-wing terrorist movement, it seems. So what do we do? What do we do? I mean, you know, it's not against the law to give a speech. It's not against the law to encourage this sort of thing like Rick Scott did. And what's most astonishing is, you know, CPAC was 2 weeks ago. Have you heard this in any of the media anywhere? I haven't. You know, what do we do with this? John in Roselle, Illinois. Hey, John, what's up?
Hey, Tom. Oh, hang on one second. Hi. How are you?
Good. Thanks for watching us on Free Speech. What's up?
Hey, I was wondering, why is like the breakaway parts of Soviet Chechnya, Georgia, you know, even Crimea, why aren't they starting to show some kind of a revolt? Or
because they've been turned into police states.
But isn't there any way that we can create cross-border units coming from them? Because they have to have a lot of people that would like to overthrow the regimes in there, and then that would put the Russians on another front. And how much of the military of Russia is committed right now to Chechnya? I mean, to Ukraine?
I don't know the answer to the question. My understanding is that there are, well, I shouldn't even say it because you read things here and there, but I am not an authority on that topic, so I don't know. All of the military that they had surrounded the border of Ukraine with is now inside Ukraine. But what percentage of the overall Russian military that is, I don't know. And what percentage of that might, you know, be the hardcore forces versus conscripts, I don't know. I'm not sure anybody does. But in terms of, you know, Crimea and large parts of the Donbass, Chechnya. Well, Chechnya is part of Russia. I mean, you know, there was an independent movement there. Putin crushed it. You know, Georgia, Odessa, Ossetia. What you have there is when Russia moves in, they impose a police state. So if anybody pops their head up and says, "Hey, wait a minute," you know, they get their head chopped off. And sometimes literally, most of the time metaphorically, you know, get put in prison. I mean, this Russian journalist who held the no war sign, we just learned that she was interrogated for, what, 17 hours straight, Sean? 17 hours straight? Yeah. And she says she hasn't slept in 2 days. She's, you know, this is, you know, life is going to be really miserable for this person. And
that makes it even more important that we help Ukraine succeed, because otherwise the Ukraine is going to become like those other regions. They're just going to be, you know,
it'll become another police state run by Putin.
Either going to drive out their population, kill them, or, you know, completely keep them quiet.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a real, and John, by the way, it sounds like you put your thumb over your microphone. It's all muffled. But this is a very real problem, and that is that what we're seeing is not just, you know, military adventurism, but we're seeing the promotion of outright fascism. I think that it's reasonable to call Russia nowadays a fascist state. I mean, particularly if you take the classic definition of fascism as the merger of corporate and state interests, and that's certainly the oligarchs in the Russian Federation, along with belligerent nationalism, which is exactly what we're seeing here. And you know, the big question is, will Putin survive this, and will Russian oligarchy survive this? And I don't know the answer to that question, but I'm starting to get skeptical about whether they can survive it. I think if Ukraine can hold out for another couple of weeks, my sense of it is that Putin's goose is cooked. But you know, don't take it from me. I am not a military strategist. It's just, you know, what I'm hearing from the military strategists causes me to believe that. We'll be right back. Share the Thom Hartmann Program with your friends. We're available on SiriusXM, Free Speech TV, Pacifica, commercial stations nationwide, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, on the Thom Hartmann app, and you can even tell your smart speaker to listen to the Thom Hartmann Program. 27 Republican senators sent a letter to the Energy Secretary, Jennifer Granholm, echoing talking points that the American Petroleum Institute pushed out on Twitter recently, saying that basically if we're going to stop importing Russian oil into the United States, which, by the way, the Russian oil imports into the U.S. are just a trickle. It's just a tiny drop in the bucket. If we're going to stop doing that, we need to, and these are some quotes from the API Twitter, we need to unleash America's energy. We need to release permits for energy development on federal lands. We need to issue offshore leasing plans for the next 5 years. We need to accelerate energy permitting infrastructure. We need to reduce regulatory and legal uncertainty. Right. It's a scam. And these 27 Republican senators are owned by the big fossil fuel companies because the Supreme Court allowed it with their Citizens United decision. We have to do something about this. There's a whole video rant about it over at thomhartmann.com. Check it out. 21 minutes past the hour. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Alex in Houston, Texas. Hey, Alex, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom, I just wanted to follow up what you were saying about between Rick Scott and Orban, Putin, and all these, you know, personality types, let's say, who, you know, parrot the same line. It reminds me of the Joseph Goebbels quote, you know, the chief propagandist or the Hitler's right-hand man. You know, he said, accuse your enemies what you are guilty of.
Exactly.
And then you hear people say, and this is actually a little bit out of my league as far as articulating it, because, I mean, you see it all the time. What the Republicans are complaining about with their little persecution complex, they're telling you what they're going to do in the future.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they're conscious of it or not, and I know as a psychotherapist you would be able to elaborate on this, and I'm interested to know, how does projection, this idea of projection, play into this? Because, I mean, it's just projection, right?
It could be. And you know, I think probably, I don't think we need to go down very far down that particular rabbit hole, though. I think it simply represents a worldview. And so when Rick Scott says, you know, this is not the time to be timid, this is the time to be bold. He said, in their new socialist America, everyone will obey and no one will be allowed to complain. If you speak up, boom, you will be canceled. You know, what Rick Scott is saying, I think, is that in his worldview, that's how political parties behave. Yeah. And therefore, if he's in charge of the Republican Party, and he has, you know, he's arguably one of the three most powerful Republicans in federal office right now. I think that's, you know, that's where he goes. That's where the GOP goes. So Alex, I get it, and I think you're right.
And if there's a protest, you know, throw protesters into unmarked vans and so on and so forth, you know?
Yeah, it happened right here in Portland. It happened in Seattle, and, you know, when Donald Trump was president, with unmarked police wearing no identification. And it turned out they were from the Border Patrol, which Trump was turning into his own little private police force, and is still just, you know, rife with Nazism and corruption. It's amazing. Alex, thanks for the call. Mark in Lexington, North Carolina. Hey, Mark, what's up? What's on your mind?
Good afternoon, Tom. How are you?
Good. What's up?
Yeah, I had one question I thought you might expound on. How long is Biden going to use the Roosevelt playbook? Winston Churchill once said, you can always count on the United States to do the right thing after they've exhausted every single other option.
My guess is he'll do that until Friday. And the reason I say that is that tomorrow, Wednesday, Zelensky is addressing the United States Congress, and that's going to be a call to arms. And then on Thursday, Biden is participating in a meeting of all the leaders of NATO. And that's the president of Estonia, which is a NATO country, and one of the Baltic states that shares a border with Russia and is very nervous. The president of Estonia has come out and said NATO is at risk. What we are seeing here, even though it's an attack on a non-NATO country, is bringing that attack to the border of NATO, and NATO needs to respond. He wants NATO to openly support Ukraine. And that probably is going to be the main topic on the table. My guess is that it's going to take, just like it did with Franklin Roosevelt, it's going to take some sort of an attack on America or on American forces or on some NATO country or some NATO force to be the trigger, like Pearl Harbor was, that would finally provide him with an opportunity or an excuse to get in. And, whether that's a good thing for the United States and for our interests and whether that could lead to nuclear war are all open questions. And therefore, it's just an incredibly serious decision.
Personally,
go ahead.
Personally, I feel like this. I think Putin is quite happy with his huge billion-dollar dacha, his lavish lifestyle, everything that he enjoys, all the perks of his dictatorship. And I don't think he is really he might threaten nuclear war, but I don't think he's looking forward to living the rest of his life in an underground bomb shelter eating out of cans.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that he may consider using battlefield nukes, a decision that may well, blow back on him badly, but I think the odds of all-out nuclear war are small. But, keep in mind, people saying the odds of war are small just before wars happen. History is littered with folks like that.
You're right.
We really, particularly, leading up to World War I, we really do need to be very, very careful here. And I am not saying, okay, let's go attack Russia or let's provoke, a world war. And frankly, I'm not even to the point yet of saying that we need to impose a no-fly zone over Ukraine. I do have a lot of confidence in the Biden administration. We finally have a rational administration in Washington, D.C., and I'm willing to follow their lead. Yeah, amen. Mark, thanks a lot for the call. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Defending America from the weapons of mass deception. I'll be back with you and your calls on the other side of this break. Well, it's Tuesday, and we've got a surprise new premium for you for contributing to Free Speech TV. Really want to emphasize this week, and I think it's so important. Regular monthly gifts, becoming a sustaining member or donor, joining the sustaining donor community of Free Speech TV. It's the way that a nonprofit like Free Speech TV can do some budgeting. I mean, it's really, really difficult to be trying to plan how you're going to run literally a multi-million-dollar company with a couple of dozen employees without knowing what your income is going to be. And this is a tight time, shall we say, and it's going to get worse in the fall because of all the politics. It's another one of these momentous election times. So we're really trying to emphasize this week, not just, hey, can you give $100 or $200 or whatever it may be, but also, or instead even, can you consider making a contribution of, say, $20 a month and just make it an ongoing basis? So that Free Speech TV knows that for the next year, they're going to have $20 a month from you and from hopefully thousands of other people, and that'll add up to real money. It doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take a lot of people, but it does take something, and that's where you come in. So about the premiums, there is, with a $20 gift today, there's the Free Speech TV Clear Sticker, the Thom Hartmann University a proud student of Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker or the Free Speech TV bumper sticker. Those three options are available to you with a $20 gift. With a $50 gift, there's the Free Speech TV seed bomb. You can celebrate Earth Day every day. With a $75 gift, there's the Free Speech TV hat or the Free Speech TV mug. And only available from Free Speech TV and only available here. Although I have occasionally seen one for sale on eBay, so you never know. With a $100 gift, there's the Free Speech TV will plant a tree for reforestation on your behalf. With a $120 gift, the only way on earth, unless you're one of my next door neighbors, to get an autographed copy, and even I'm not even hanging out with my neighbors yet, but to get an autographed copy of The Hidden History of Big Brother in America, How the Death of Privacy and the Rise of Surveillance Threaten Us and Our Democracy, is to make a $120 contribution right now to Free Speech TV at 877-378-8669. And I think you will find this book shocking, enlightening, and valuable, useful. Protect yourself and your computers. Or with a $120 gift, there's the Free Speech TV Solidarity t-shirt. With a $240 gift, we have two choices now. There's the basic choice of join our meet and greet, hang out with me and more or less a dozen other people for an hour on Zoom, and we can talk about whatever's on your mind, whatever you want to talk about. But now Free Speech TV has a brand new premium. It is the Banned Book Box. And not only can you get this with a $240 one-time gift, but more importantly, into our theme of this week of regular monthly contributions, you can get it by just signing up with a $20 gift and telling Free Speech TV, continue taking that $20 out of my credit card every month until I tell you to stop, or for a year. You know, $20 a month for a year is $240. That math even I can do, and the Banned Book Box is really cool. It's got three of the top most frequently banned books in America. The Bluest Eye, a novel by Toni Morrison. Mouse, which is an illustrated graphic novel that's based on the author's parents' experience of living in Nazi Germany. Or Beyond Magenta, Transgender Teens Speak Out. This is by Susan Kuklin, or Kuklin, Kuklin. My apologies for not knowing how to pronounce it. And the story of being trans in America. This is important stuff. You're seeing, three different really important perspectives that Republicans in state houses across the United States don't want you to see. So that's available to you with a $240 one-time gift or a $20 a month commitment for a year. The Banned Book Box from Free Speech TV. And with a $1,000 gift, get in line to come here and hang out with us in Portland in our funky little studio. But here we are in this extraordinary time where there's literally a war going on for democracy, for the survival of Ukraine's democracy. There is, the autocracies of the world getting together. We've got within the United States now the Republican Party moving toward autocracy very, very rapidly, toward full-blown fascism, frankly, in my opinion. And the Democratic Party having a really substantial awakening, which we're seeing in this administration, and the Progressive Caucus becoming the new power brokers within the Democratic Party in Washington, D.C., and in state houses around the country. So there was never a better time to contribute to Free Speech TV than now and help keep progressive media going. 877-378-8669. Hey, I've got a new book out. It's called The Hidden History of Big Brother in America, How the Death of Privacy and the Rise of Surveillance Threaten Us and Our Democracy. Available wherever you find fine books. So did you hear the story about the three white guys, 20, 22, 24 years old, who just pleaded guilty to trying to attack power grids in three different parts of the United States According to the Justice Department, their scheme was that they were going to bring down electricity for 3 basically major cities or major regions of the United States. And the theory of this program is sort of like what Tim McVeigh was all about back in 1990, I think it was 3, when he blew up the Federal Building. Their scheme was that doing so, cutting off the power to these cities, well, this is from the Department of Justice, quote, the defendants believed their plan would cost the government millions of dollars and cause unrest for Americans in the region. They had conversations about how the possibility of the power being out for months would cause a race war and induce the next Great Depression. They had suicide pills and everything. Why aren't we talking about white terrorism in America? There's a video about this over at thomhartmann.com. Check it out. As it were, the Department of Justice has indicted a Russian oligarch for making over $1 million worth of illegal contributions. Remember Igor and Lev? Well, they were the bagmen, apparently, along with a guy named Andrei Kukushkin. But Lev Parnas and Igor Fruman were delivering this $1 million worth of illegal Russian contributions to apparently mostly Russian Adam Laxalt, for example, maybe. I mean, we're still not sure, but it looks like it's being reported anyway that Ron DeSantis and Rick Scott also received Russian money. So, you know, we'll see how this all shakes out. There's a pretty good thread about it. The Washington Post is tweeting about it and has an article about it, about this Russian oligarch who has now been it says Andrei Muryev has been indicted by a federal grand jury in New York, part of a case that led to an investigation of former New York Mayor Rudolph Giuliani. So, as they say, watch this space. Meanwhile, I mentioned this extraordinary woman who stood up on Russian television and said, the war, you know, stop the war, it's a lie. And I'm not going to try and mangle her name again, but you know who I'm talking about. You can find it online. She actually issued a statement, and she said that this was a pre-recorded message that played on social media after she appeared on Russian television. She said, what is happening in Ukraine is a crime, and Russia is the aggressor here, and responsibility for this aggression rests on the conscience of a single man, Vladimir Putin. My father is Ukrainian, my mother is Russian, and they've never been enemies. And this necklace that I'm wearing is a symbol of the fact that Russia must immediately end this fratricidal war, and our fraternal peoples will be able to make peace. Unfortunately, I've spent many of the last few years working for Channel 1, the Kremlin propaganda, and I'm deeply ashamed of this. Ashamed that I allowed, and she goes on about this, ashamed that I allowed the justification of the Russian people. We were silent, and she goes on from there. GoPro, and then she wraps it up. It gets rather lengthy. She wraps it up and she says, go protest. Don't be afraid of anything. They can't lock us all away. Well, Putin remembers a time when they could lock them all away, when 1/3 of all of Germany was spying on the other 2/3 of Germany, and he was part of that program. So I'm not quite as optimistic about that, but, you know, good on her. Absolutely good on her. So let's see here, picking up your phone calls. Tim in Chenley Park, Illinois. Hey, Tim, it says here you're a troll. Is that true?
No, I'm not a troll.
Okay, so what's up?
I've called you before. I've met you in real life at your book signing.
Okay.
In the suburbs. You know, I guess, you know, I'm stalking you. I mean, I guess I'm a stalker. I mean, Tom,
all right, so what do you want to disagree with me about, Tim? It says you want to disagree. What's on your mind?
I think there's many things that the Democratic Party, I guess, activists or members or whoever, do that alarm me, that shock me, that I disagree with, wholeheartedly disagree with, and I don't think that I'm going to be taking up arms against my neighbors, against my relatives, against Thom Hartmann. You seem like a pretty nice man to me. I disagree with your politics. Is that wrong? I don't want to see some of your politics win the day. Is that wrong? Is that violent? I mean, your Goebbels guy that called earlier, I could say that about every Democrat. As soon as you say that the Republicans are trying to ruin gas, or they're trying to...
Except Democrats are not passing laws, Tim. Democrats are not passing laws to make it harder for people to vote. Democrats are not passing laws to try to basically silence Americans. Democrats are not passing laws or trying to pass laws, you know, to give the death penalty to people who want an abortion. No, we're not.
You're completely silencing my voice, completely. If I go to a school board and say, what you're teaching my 5-year-old child is completely disgusting, then all of a sudden I'm unemployed. I'm
I don't think you are unemployed, Tim. You're welcome to say whatever you want. It's a free country. If you start spouting racist rhetoric or homophobic rhetoric, you will be appropriately, what would the word be? You'll appropriately horrify. Ostracize is the word, yeah. But ostracization is a whole different thing from tyranny, Tim. I mean, this whole conservative snowflake thing that somebody doesn't like the fact that I want to use the N-word or whatever is frankly pathetic, Tim.
Well, it's pathetic that you went to the N-word, Tom, because that's not where I'm headed with this. Where I'm headed with this is that we have to get along as neighbors. We're all neighbors, whether we like it or not. And I'm not going to tell my neighbor he's wrong because he's upset that my dog is doing stuff on his lawn. He's not a bigot. He's not a Timophobe. He's a guy that wants to live life his way.
Tim. We're talking about the right to vote. We're talking about Rick Scott saying that people essentially should take up arms. We're talking about Donald Trump saying you have to be willing to lay down your life for your country.
Democrats
against
are taking over cities,
Democrats.
Tom. Seattle is no longer. You have to move people out of Seattle because Democrats have taken them over.
Tim,
burnt our cities to the ground.
This is come on. I've been to Seattle. I live in Portland. Come on, Tim. This is the kind of weird BS that you're being fed by right-wing media. Tim, I'm gonna leave it at that. You reach a certain point where it's like you're trying to rebut a non-reality. It's like trying to debate whether the world is flat with somebody who's absolutely convinced the world is flat. The world is not flat. Sorry, Tim. Zeke in Portland. Hey, Zeke.
Yeah, Tom, I would like to see just a shred of intellectual honesty from the best and the brightest elitists in this country. The same set of people who got us into Vietnam and the second Iraq War and 20 years of Afghanistan. I would like to hear them say that what is really going on here is nuclear blackmail. That is what is being worked very effectively by Vladimir Putin to prevent this country from doing what we need to do to keep Ukraine from being annihilated. And I am talking about, at the least, at the minimum, a no-fly zone. If we do this, they can win. They can stop this badness in Ukraine. Right. If this does not happen, he is going to take down the Baltic countries. I just got an email from David K. Johnston. I think you know him.
I do.
David has relatives in Slovakia. He has visited the Baltics. All of those people, David says, fully expect to be invaded. Now, you tell me, Tom, what is the magic that's going to happen when one of these NATO countries is invaded that's going to make the nuclear blackmail suddenly go away? Because the President, Biden, has said he will defend every inch of NATO territory. Right. So why not defend Ukraine now? They can defeat the Russians on the ground with our help, because if we don't do this, we're going to be in a situation down the road where we're going to have to send hundreds of thousands of American troops to Europe to stop this.
Yeah.
Okay?
I largely agree with you, Zeke. And I think that a no-fly zone over Ukraine would infuriate the Russians, but I don't think that they're willing to start a nuclear war over it. But again,
No, they're not, because...
Well, let me just finish this thought, and then you can respond to it. But it's real easy sitting here in a radio studio, thousands of miles away from the conflict zone, to say, to pontificate about how American policy should be done, particularly foreign policy that involves war. And my personal opinion is that we should be doing a no-fly zone. But I'm not willing to argue strongly for that or ask people to call their senators and stuff like that about that, because at least for the moment, I'm willing to cut this administration, the benefit of the doubt, that they are better informed than I am. Now, I realize that, a lot of people said that about George W. Bush's intelligence on Iraq. And a lot of people said that about, Lyndon Johnson's intelligence on Vietnam. And we've been, buffaloed before, or BS'd before, or whatever. But, this is a very different situation. This is not a U.S. war of aggression. But B, I really think that in the next 2 days, you're going to see a real substantial change as a result of the 2 points that I made earlier. Zelensky addressing the U.S. Congress tomorrow and Biden showing up for a NATO meeting on Thursday. So I'm gonna hold my rants in abeyance for 2 days and see what happens.
Well, we don't have a lot of time here, Tom.
I agree.
These people cannot hold out forever. They are incredibly brave, and it's good that we've done all the sanctions and that we're sending in the javelins and the stingers and all that. It is all necessary, but it is not sufficient. It is not sufficient. Yeah. We need to do the no-fly zone. One more thing.
I have outspokenly argued, and on Twitter and on this program as well, and in fact, I tweeted my 2 senators, that at the very least, give those Polish MiGs to Ukraine and do it now.
That would be good. Just one more thing. Do you know who Alexander Dugin is?
Yeah,
does that name ring a bell for you?
Russian neo-fascist philosopher.
Exactly. He's written a book called Foundations of Geopolitics, which is required reading in all the Russian military academies, in which he describes a brief for Russian ambitions from Dublin to Vladivostok.
Yeah.
And he claims that Ukraine as a state has no geopolitical meaning. You might want to look into him a little bit more than maybe you have.
Yeah, there have been a couple of good articles about him. I believe there was one in the Atlantic. But yeah, you're absolutely right. He's the kind of the Putin whisperer. Zeke, thanks a lot.
He's Putin's Rasputin. Putin's Rasputin.
There you go. Thank you, Zeke. Thanks for the call. We'll be back 46 minutes past the hour.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
It's the place where smart people get their news. We'll be back with your calls right after this. And welcome back. Kim in Santa Rosa, California. Hey, Kim, what's on your mind today?
Well, I thank you for taking my call. I just want to mention a theory that I have, and I'm not educated. I don't have higher education, but I was in the Navy, and I did weather in the Navy. Mm-hmm. I believe that the reason that they took Chernobyl and they opened the door briefly because you had that spike in radiation was to test and see how much radiation was inside the dome. And then they've turned off the power to the plant, and I think they're waiting for that radiation to build up to a certain level. They will leave. They will punch a hole in the dome, and they will blame it on the technicians and engineers that they have hostage.
I get your theory, Kim. I've read similar theories on the internet. I would point out that they have restored the power, the backup power to Chernobyl, so that they can cool that nuclear power. Number one, and that number two, the dome was never, or the collapsed containment vessel was never opened. That the increased radiation levels in the area were because the dirt, the top couple inches of topsoil, within a 20-mile radius of Chernobyl is heavily contaminated. And when they ran a bunch of trucks through there, they stirred the dust up, it got in the air, and boom, you were measuring radiation. And it looks like the reason they took Chernobyl was because it's right on.
In a very long time. We know this in our hearts, and I think we need to get people on the same side, and the only way we can effectively do this is to equally pursue corruption on both sides. So we need a leader on the left who's willing to go after...
Well, I think we've got that in Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, if nobody else.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I agree. I don't...
And the
Bernie
Progressive
Sanders
Caucus in the House, Ro Khanna.
Yeah, I completely agree. I just don't feel like anybody has really, truly, I don't know. I'm just hopeful that somebody is out there that actually connects with people. And I just don't feel like, because if you listen, I know a lot of people on the right, and they basically think Sanders is the devil, you need somebody who we can all get behind. I don't know who that is, but I think that's...
Well, at the moment, how about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris? I mean,
that's what we have now.
We have a president and a vice president, and on specific issues, we can agree or disagree with them. But I think, generally speaking, I'm also, I'm old enough to remember when one of the Republicans' slogans back in the day was politics stops at the water's edge. Don't criticize. In fact, this was used a lot during the Nixon administration to try to stop criticism of Nixon's policies in Vietnam. You know, how dare you criticize our president during a time of war? Remember the love it or leave it? It was a bumper sticker. It was a big deal in the late 60s, early 70s. You know, stop talking about Nixon. That's how Republicans used to talk. Now all they do is trash a president during times of war. Don, thanks for the call. Change starts with you. You can be calling your Democratic or Republican representatives to let them know what you think by calling 202-224-3121. It's the Capitol switchboard. It'll get you right through to them. Hey, just wanted to flag for you this amazing study that came out of the Department of Global Public Health at the University of Bergen in Norway. Lars Fadnes is the professor who oversaw it. They took a massive database of millions and millions of people all around the world, and the goal was to look at life expectancy. And they were looking at everything from pollution to wars to poverty to diet. And because there was so much data and such a large population base, they were able to separate out individual pieces. And what they found, and just looking at the diet piece of this, what they found was that going with what you and I might call the Mediterranean diet, they don't call it that in the study. What they basically say is no red meat, very little dairy, lots of fish, nuts, legumes as the principal protein sources, and lots and lots and lots of fresh fruits and veggies would add 10 years of lifespan to the typical 20-year-old and 8 years of lifespan to the typical 60-year-old. The whole video about it is over at thomhartmann.com. Check it out. "52 minutes past the hour. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Juanita in Prosser, Washington. Hey, Juanita, what's on your mind today?
Okay, there was a gentleman that said something about the Baltic states. They are nervous.
Will he stop? Or will he try and cut a deal with Viktor Orban in Hungary, who is a good friend of his, and, you know, fellow kleptocrats? Orban has turned Hungary into a kleptocracy by and large. Most of the major industries in Hungary are now owned by oligarchs affiliated with Orban. You know, will that happen? Or is he just going to go after Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia? Is he just going to go after the Baltic states? And I don't think anybody knows the answer to that question, but what history tells us is that when people like Putin start, they generally don't stop until somebody gives them a bloody nose.
Okay, one thing. How would Putin get any military to Hungary? They have to go through the NATO countries.
Well, Hungary is a NATO country. And that's where it could get really, really awkward if you know, Viktor Orban were to say, oh, no, we'll welcome. But see, I think that option has been closed off. If Putin had done what he thought, if his military had done what he thought they were going to do, you know, in 4 days, basically, take the whole country, or in less than a week, and, you know, nary a peep, and the President of the United States going, it's all right, which is exactly, pretty much what happened in 2014, you know, with Obama and the United States and the rest of Europe with regard to Crimea. We all kind of shrugged our shoulders. You know, Obama gave some speeches and he sanctioned some Russians, but basically it was like, this isn't that big a deal. And, you know, I think that's fully what Putin expected to have happen. And had it happened that way, and had there not been a huge military conflict, and had the world not gotten outraged and mobilized, then I think he probably might have considered cutting a deal with Viktor Orban in Hungary and perhaps the leader of Poland. But this is all blown up in his face. I don't think he's going to make it out of this, you know, successfully.
The one other thing is the Russian military so great? Why are they asking for volunteers like from Syria?
Yeah, I think it tells you the Russian military is not that great. Juanita, thank you. Excellent points all. David in Woodland Hills, California. Hey, David, what's up?
Well, Tom, you know, you often talk about the 80-year political cycle. Depression leads to war, leads to the rebuilders, the children who grew up during the Depression and fought the war, leads to their children, the Enlightenment seekers, the hippies, leads to the greedy me-first generation, leads to depression, leads to war.
Right.
Well, last night, watching the ABC Evening News, I was chilled to the bone when they interviewed an 83-year-old Ukrainian woman whose apartment building had just been bombed, and she said, "I was 3 years old when the Nazis came, and now, 80 years later, I never thought it would happen again."
Wow. Yeah, those cycles of history, I was informed about that by Strauss and Howe's book, The Fourth Turning, and, which was published in the 90s. And in that book, they predicted that, right around now would be the time that the fourth turning would happen. And here we are. I still think it's one of the most consequential books that's been written in a long time. I know that there are websites praising it and websites purporting to debunk it. But, if you look at the 80-year cycles in American history, the American Revolutionary War was followed 80 years later by the Civil War, which was followed 80 years later by World War II, which was followed 80 years later by now. And it's like, oh, wait a minute. And there's, Arnold Toynbee's old saying, when the last man who remembers the horrors of the last great war dies, the next great war becomes inevitable. David, thanks. Thanks for the heads up on that. That was a fascinating anecdote. I appreciate the call. We'll continue our conversation in our third hour here. Why is Joe Manchin doing what he's doing? I mean, he's going after a Fed nominee, and he's going after electric cars. We'll discuss that on the other side of this break.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are HelloFresh, the #1 meal kit delivery service. More info at HelloFresh.com, code TOM. The Hidden History of Big Brother in America, how the death of privacy and the rise of surveillance threaten us and our democracy, by Thom Hartmann. More information at all book outlets. Wild Alaskan Company, 100% sustainable wild-caught seafood delivered right to your door. More info at wildalaskancompany.com/Tom. Cozy Earth, better sleep, better you. More info at Cozy promo code TOM.
Well, it's Tuesday, and we've got a surprise new premium for you for contributing to Free Speech TV. Really want to emphasize this week, and I think it's so important. Regular monthly gifts, becoming a sustaining member or donor, joining the sustaining donor community of Free Speech TV. It's the way that a nonprofit like Free Speech TV can do some budgeting. I mean, it's really, really difficult to be trying to plan how you're going to run literally a multi-million-dollar company with a couple of dozen employees without knowing what your income is going to be. And this is a tight time, shall we say, and it's going to get worse in the fall because of all the politics. It's another one of these momentous election times. So we're really trying to emphasize this week, not just, hey, can you give $100 or $200 or whatever it may be, but also, or instead even, can you consider making a contribution of, say, $20 a month and just make it an ongoing basis? So that Free Speech TV knows that for the next year, they're going to have $20 a month from you and from hopefully thousands of other people, and that'll add up to real money. It doesn't take a lot, it doesn't take a lot of people, but it does take something, and that's where you come in. So about the premiums, there is, with a $20 gift today, there's the Free Speech TV Clear sticker, the Thom Hartmann University, proud student of Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, or the Free Speech TV bumper sticker. Those three options are available to you with a $20 gift. With a $50 gift, there's the Free Speech TV Seed Bomb. You can celebrate Earth Day every day. With a $75 gift, there's the Free Speech TV hat or the Free Speech TV mug, and only available from Free Speech TV and only available here Although I have occasionally seen one for sale on eBay, so you never know. With a $100 gift, there's the Free Speech TV will plant a tree for reforestation on your behalf. With a $120 gift, the only way on earth, unless you're one of my next door neighbors, to get an autographed copy, and even I'm not even hanging out with my neighbors yet, but to get an autographed copy of The Hidden History of Big Brother in America, How the Death of Privacy and the Rise of Surveillance Threaten Us and Our Democracy, is to make a $120 contribution right now to Free Speech TV at 877-378-8669. And I think you will find this book shocking, enlightening, and valuable. Useful. Protect yourself and your computers. Or, with a $120 gift, there's the Free Speech TV Solidarity t-shirt. With a $240 gift, we have two choices now. There's the basic choice of join our meet and greet, hang out with me and more or less a dozen other people for an hour on Zoom, and we can talk about whatever's on your mind, whatever you want to talk about. But now Free Speech TV has a brand new premium. It is the Banned Book Box. And not only can you get this with a $240 one-time gift, but more importantly, into our theme of this week of regular monthly contributions, you can get it by just signing up with a $20 gift and telling Free Speech TV, continue taking that $20 out of my credit card every month until I tell you to stop, or for a year. $20 a month for a year is $240. That math even I can do, and the Banned Book Box is really cool. It's got three of the top most frequently banned books in America. The Bluest Eye, a novel by Toni Morrison. Mouse, which is an illustrated graphic novel that's based on the author's parents' experience of living in Nazi Germany. Or Beyond Magenta, Transgender Teens Speak Out. This is by Susan Kuklin, or Kuklin, K-U-K-L-I-N. My apologies for not knowing how to pronounce it. And the story of being trans in America. This is important stuff. You're seeing, three different really important perspectives that Republicans in state houses across the United States don't want you to see. So that's available to you with a $240 one-time gift or a $20 a month commitment for a year. The Banned Book Box from Free Speech TV. And with a $1,000 gift, get in line to come here and hang out with us in Portland in our funky little studio. But here we are in this extraordinary time where there's literally a war going on for democracy, for the survival of Ukraine's democracy. There is, the autocracies of the world getting together. We've got within the United States now the Republican Party moving toward autocracy very, very rapidly, toward full-blown fascism, frankly, in my opinion. And the Democratic Party having a really substantial awakening, which we're seeing in this administration, and the Progressive Caucus becoming the new power brokers within the Democratic Party in Washington, D.C., and in state houses around the country. So there was never a better time to contribute to Free Speech TV than now and help keep progressive media going. 877-378-8669.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome back to the third hour of our program. Fox has now confirmed that one of their cameramen was killed and one of their reporters was wounded when Russian troops opened fire on their car in Ukraine. Is this going to change the Fox tune, the pro-Putin tune that we're hearing out of Fox News? I don't know. We'll see. Meanwhile, apparently in a really tough move, Russia has imposed sanctions on U.S. citizens, including Joe Biden's dead father. Yeah. What can you say? I mean, Jen Psaki had to deal with this in a press conference today. Meanwhile, there's some interesting domestic politics that I think are worth pointing out. It's so easy for everything to get lost in this war. And you know, it is important, and we'll continue our conversation about it when I pick up your phone calls in just a few minutes. But there are two areas where Senator Manchin, Senator Joe Manchin, the for the moment Democrat from West Virginia, who I am predicting, if it looks like it's a 50-50 Senate after the next election, after this election this fall, or if the Republicans take the Senate, my prediction is Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema will probably both become Republicans. Because after all, that's the party of, you know, sellouts and people who are for sale. Joe Manchin is one of the guys, certainly the Democrat, who has taken more money from the fossil fuel industry than any other member of Congress. And now the Fed is down 5 people. And so Joe Biden is trying to get 5 new members of the Fed through the Senate. And, you know, most of it's going to be party line votes because Republicans are just trying to screw up anything. Anything Joe Biden wants to do, the Republicans want to stop it, including putting people on the Fed. Well, in this case, one of the nominees is the wife of Congressman Jamie Raskin, who led the first impeachment of Donald Trump. And his wife is, you know, just extraordinarily qualified for this job. I mean, she was a member of the Federal Reserve's Board of Governors for years. She was the Deputy Secretary of the United States Treasury for 3 years during the Obama administration. This woman is an economist. She understands what she's talking about. She's been there. She's got the experience. Why would you not want her there? Well, back in 2020, she wrote an op-ed for the New York Times. 2 years ago, she wrote an op-ed for the New York Times criticizing the Fed for, quote, directing money to further entrench the carbon economy and calling fossil fuels, quote, a dying industry. How dare she point out the truth? I mean, we can't have that. So Joe Manchin, he who takes mind-boggling amounts of money from fossil fuel companies and owns one himself, has said, no. The fossil fuel companies have cumulatively pumped millions of dollars into the campaigns of the 12 Republicans who are on the Senate Banking Committee. Manchin's not on that committee, but he is going to be a critical vote to confirm her. And yesterday afternoon, he issued a statement saying that he would not vote in favor of Sarah Bloom Raskin's nomination for the Federal Reserve's Vice Chair of Supervision because she doesn't like fossil fuels. You know, just like proving irony is not dead, Senator Manchin, you know, D-Cole, said the Fed is not an institution that should politicize its critical decisions. Right. The future of our climate, the future of our nation, the future of our energy dependence, none of that's political. That all has to do with billionaires making money. Come on, guys. And along similar lines, this from The Guardian today, an article by Oliver Millman, Joe Manchin has also said that he's going to, that he's, quote, very reluctant to see more electric cars in the United States. This is what he spoke at a fossil fuel conference, an energy conference, Zero Week, and he said, I'm very reluctant to go down the path of electric vehicles. I'm old enough to remember standing in line in '74 trying to buy gas. I remember those days. I don't want to have to be standing in line waiting for a battery for my vehicle because we're now dependent on a foreign supply chain, mostly China. Well, gee, Joe, why don't you kick in with Joe Biden and build charging stations across America and start building batteries here in the United States like Elon Musk does? Manchin, this is the piece in The Guardian, notes Manchin, who has taken more money in political donations from fossil fuel interests than any other senator. And wow, I mean, if you're beating Langford, that's a big deal. Also said he has a hard time understanding why the federal government would invest in a network of electric car charging stations. They note his criticism is ominous for the White House's hopes of passing major climate legislation this year. That would be the Build Back Better bill. It's stalled, including $500 million in clean energy tax credits and major rebates for electric car purchases. Nonetheless, by the way, electric cars are flying off the shelves, to use a metaphor. Have you noticed all the ads on TV for cars now are for electric cars? I haven't seen an ad for a gas-powered car. Maybe it's the network I'm watching or the networks I'm watching, which is mostly CNN and MSNBC and of course, Free Speech TV, although they don't run ads for car companies. But haven't seen a gas car in quite a while. And in fact, this past month, they note, has seen a strong increase in the number of people searching online for hybrid and battery electric vehicles because gas prices are back where they were in 2008 when George W. Bush was president. Remember then? Gas prices hitting $5 a gallon? Well, we're back there now. Also, Manchin says he doesn't want to promote electric cars because some of those parts might be made in foreign countries. Well, most of our gas-powered cars have lots and lots of parts made in foreign countries. About 500,000 electric cars were sold in the U.S. last year, up 80% over the previous year. Some of the top sellers right now are Ford Mustang's Mach-E and the Tesla Model Y. These are cars that are, far less expensive. I mean, you've got the Freedom truckers in D.C. driving $70,000, jacked up high-end pickup trucks, gas and diesel pickup trucks, and $200,000 and $300,000 big rigs, driving them around in circles around D.C., burning fuel, complaining about the price of gas. These electric cars are a hell of a lot cheaper by and large. The new ones that are out, the Chevy Bolt, the Nissan Leaf. There's a bunch of them. And owning an electric car is a lot cheaper than owning a gas car. You don't have hundreds of parts in the engine to replace or repair. You don't have oil to change. You don't have lubrication and heads and spark plugs and stuff to worry about. You basically have a battery and a motor and a little electronic module that controls them. And that's it. So the Biden administration is aiming for 50% of all new car sales to be electric by 2030, 8 years from now. And last year it was only 3%. So that's pretty substantial. But I can tell you, Louise and I love it, the fact that, we have a plug-in hybrid car where it runs roughly 30 miles on a charge, which gets you anywhere you want to go in Portland and back home. And then when you run out of electricity after that 30 miles, it kicks over to gasoline, and it's got a full tank of gas that'll take you 300 miles. So, no problem, right? You can buy gas anywhere. And a lot of people are moving to these plug-in hybrids. We have had this car for 5 years now, and I bought 4 tanks of gas in 5 years. And, it wasn't that much more expensive. And yet it's got the electric battery. And making electric cars, there's a reason why all these companies are jumping into making electric cars. It's more profitable than making gas-powered cars because electric engines are cheap to make. There's zero maintenance. The only maintenance you have to do with an electric car is have your tires changed. That's it. There's no oil change. There's no spark plugs. That's it. There's no drivetrain. There's no transmission. It's very, very simple. You got the chassis, you got the motors, you got the battery, and you got a control module, which is all electronics. It's a computer. But Joe Manchin doesn't like that, apparently.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
I wonder what it would be like to live in an America where it was illegal for fossil fuel companies to buy politicians. And welcome back. Let's see here. Kirk in Lakeland, Florida. Kirk, you're listening on WMNF, and my apologies. I don't remember if your station is a for-profit station that's in a commercial break or if you're a nonprofit.
It is a nonprofit. It is a donor-supported station.
Oh, great. Okay, so we're live on the air on WMNF. I'll make a note on that and take your calls during these breaks. Thanks.
You're technically on their HD3 channel, but I also listen to you on the app. I wanted to call in just to say that, I live in Central Florida, and I just want to talk about my experience briefly, and that is that I believe in God, and the belief in God is actually guided by my experience in recovery. March 20th this year, I'll be 14 years clean if I make it. Clean sober.
Good on you, Kirk.
And I think the point of this is that even 12-step meetings have had their challenges with these political divides. But I want to point out some things, which is that when you go into any room, a 12-step meeting, one of the things they ask you for is honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. With that, we're well on our way. And so my question is are the people that are going to the front of the church also can they also go into the rear of the church and say the same thing? And so, where these 12-step meetings are held. So I want to stick out my neck a little bit and say that, guided by my experience with God and my experience with recovery, which is more like spiritual principles, I'm supporting Nikki Fried. Nikki Fried is running against Ron DeSantis, and Nikki Fried clearly stands up for women's rights. She clearly stands up against. I'm passionate about the solar amendment. She's passionate about a number of things, including women's rights.
She's been on this program.
Thank you for having her. I would encourage you to keep talking with her. I am trying to do what I can in Polk County. And Polk County is, I like to point this out, I'm a medical device distributor. I started off in one of the poorest counties in Florida, and I've done okay with Medicaid and everything else, being a provider. And to my point is that, I think that what's happened is that I want to support Nikki Fried in this, and I want to say that also that for your listeners to go out and again, if you want to think about fascism or tyranny, you certainly alluded to the examples in Florida, both with Rick Scott and with Ron DeSantis. I'm going to finish with this, Tom, if you don't mind. It's On Tyranny by Timothy Snyder, and it says 20 lessons from the 20th century. Do you mind if I read the 20?
I'm listening. I'm familiar with the book. He's been on the program. Go ahead. You got 20. You got 19 seconds.
Do not ban it. 1. Do not obey in advance. 2. Defend institutions. 3. Beware the one-party state. 4. Take responsibility for the face of the world. 5. Remember professional ethics. 6. Be wary of paramilitaries. 7. Be reflective if you must be armed. 8. Stand out. 9. Be kind to our language. 10. Believe in truth. 11. Investigate. 12. Make eye contact and small talk. 13. Practice corporeal politics. 14. Establish a private life. 15. Contribute to good causes. 16. Learn from peers in other countries. 17. Listen to dangerous words. 18. Be calm when the unthinkable rise. 19. Be a patriot. 20. Be as courageous as you can. Thanks, Tom.
You're welcome, Kirk. Thank you. We'll be back. Missed my opening rant today? It's usually published over at HartmannReport.com, where you can read it and share it with your friends for free. Check it out, HartmannReport.com. We have not in the United States historically protected people's feelings by law. We protect, people from being victims of actions. You can't be discriminated against in a store or a restaurant or a mortgage or anything else based on your race or your gender or your ethnicity or in many cases, your sexual identity or gender identity. But it is not typically, typically we don't put into law, you may not hurt somebody's feelings. But that's exactly what Florida is doing with their so-called woke act, the Stop the Wrongs to Our Kids and Employees Act, which basically threatens teachers if they cause their white children or any children to, quote, feel discomfort, guilt, or anguish as a result of what's being taught. This is a dangerous precedent. There's a whole video about it over at thomhartmann.com. You can check it out. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you, picking up your phone calls. And Eric in Fountain Valley, California. Hey, Eric, what's on your mind today?
Yes, hi, Tom. When I hear you say that Russia is going to, if they succeed in Ukraine, they're going to take the Baltics, they're going to take Hungary, they're going to take Poland, they're going to take Czechoslovakia, It reminds me of what we called the domino theory back in the 60s, which was used to sell us the Vietnam War. And
yeah, except there's a substantial difference. You know, North Vietnam was aligned with China. That war had been going on since the mid-1950s. The French had tried to fight that war, and they were basically trying to take all of Vietnam. There was, you know, I don't think I think I get it that analogy was used back then, but nobody seriously believed it. I realized Nixon was pushing it and whatnot. But I don't think.
I recall, and I was only 9 or 10 years old, but I recall it being a phrase that was used constantly.
Oh yeah, by apologists for the war.
And they're going to take all Asia.
And that's exactly what Hitler did, Eric.
Correct.
When Hitler took,
I think this is very different than Hitler. I think what's going to happen if the Russians succeed in taking Ukraine is they will not be able to hold it, and they will have their hands full just trying to hold on to Ukraine.
I agree.
Because there will be a relentless insurgency, and I don't think they'll be physically able to turn their attention on invading another country. And I also believe that NATO will physically be there to prevent them from trying to invade any other country. And yes, the nuclear blackmail will be there, but I do believe that NATO will have to stand up.
Eric, I completely agree with you on all points. The point I made earlier was if Putin had been able to take Ukraine in 5 days, this would have most likely been the rest of his plan. And in fact, we have a leaked Russian plan to take Moldova as well. You know, we don't have a leaked Russian plan about the Balkans. But it looks to me like he's been stopped in his tracks. I mean, this is the equivalent of if France had jumped in to defend Poland back in 1939. You know, which obviously didn't happen, and eventually it ended up in France's doorstep. But you're absolutely right, Eric. I'm not disputing that.
May I make one more point? I'm constantly trying to think of sound bites for the Democrats to use, and you mentioned some things that Democrats should be selling. I also think that Democrats should be saying Republicans, the party of 2008, Republicans, the party of 2020. And for people with longer memories, Republicans, the party of 1929.
Yeah, the Republican Great Depression. Eric, thank you. Thanks for listening to us on Sirius XM, and appreciate the call. Also on Sirius XM, Andrea in O'Fallon, Illinois. Hey, Andrea, what's up?
Hey, Tom. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Good, perfect. So I just was at the pump at the gas station, and I saw one of those god-awful stickers with Joe Biden pointing and saying, "I did this." So I got so enraged, I just, I peeled it off of my debit card. And so it's a older gentleman, white hair, mustache, pumping right next to me, and he heard me scoff about it. And so as I finished pumping, I said, "Excuse me, sir, do you believe that Joe Biden is in control of gas prices?" He said, "Yes, and this is why." And he starts spewing out these talking points from Fox. Yeah. And then he also said within them, but I'm confused. I used to be a Democrat, but now I don't know what's going on. So I listened, and I said, "Sir, I understand it's a confusing time, but understand this. No president is in control of a gas price because we're a capitalist nation. Understand that." Yeah. He said, "Okay." And I said, "I know that it's a confusing time, but you got to ask yourself, sir, who wants you to be confused? Why do they want you to be confused? Things can be so simple." He said, "I understand that we have wars going on everywhere, in Yemen, not only in Ukraine. People need to understand." I said, "I understand that as well." And he said, "But I just don't agree with letting in immigrants just any time." He said, "I'm an immigrant myself, and I immigrated 33 years ago, and I paid taxes." And I said, "Sir, I understand that. But just as you came and paid taxes as an immigrant, other immigrants have that same opportunity, and they should. This is America, the land of the free." And I said, "Sir, my name is Andrea Sullivan, and I want to help you. I want to help gentlemen like you because I know we're living in a confusing time. But this needs to be understood. We are in a battle of good versus evil, and there is good and bad on both sides." He's just like I was agreeing with what he said. He initially said that no matter if you're black, white, Asian, Yemen, wherever, they're good and bad. I said exactly. And you have to understand why people want you to be divisive in the first place. and we agreed. I shook his hand, and I believe wholeheartedly that I, today, did something to change him a bit, just to open his eyes up a little bit, because you have to ask yourself, why do people want divisiveness? Why is Putin going to war? He is literally, Trump is the same. They want confusion. They want corruption. They want to fight.
Yeah.
For what reason?
Yeah, but typically for power or for money or both. Yeah. Andrea, thank you.
Always.
Yeah, thank you. Good on you.
I mean, guys, have a good one.
Yeah, thank you, Andrea. That's spectacular. That's amazing. By the way, a tip of the hat to my friend Phil Proctor. Avsyannikova. Avsyannikova is the name of the woman, the Russian journalist who said no war.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Thank you, Phil. We'll be back with more of your calls right after this. Stick around. Well, it's Tuesday, and we've got a surprise new premium for you for contributing to Free Speech TV. Really want to emphasize this week, and I think it's so important. Regular monthly gifts, becoming a sustaining member or donor, joining the sustaining donor community of Free Speech TV. It's the way that a nonprofit like Free Speech TV can do some budgeting. I mean, it's really, really difficult to be trying to plan how you're going to run literally a multi-million-dollar company with a couple of dozen employees without knowing what your income is going to be. And this is a tight time, shall we say, and it's going to get worse in the fall because of all the politics. It's another one of these momentous election times. So we're really trying to emphasize this week, not just, hey, can you give $100 or $200 or whatever it may be, but also, or instead even, can you consider making a contribution of, say, $20 a month and just make it an ongoing basis? So that Free Speech TV knows that for the next year, they're going to have $20 a month from you and from hopefully thousands of other people, and that'll add up to real money. It doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take a lot of people, but it does take something, and that's where you come in. So about the premiums, there is, with a $20 gift today, there's the Free Speech TV Clear sticker, the Thom Hartmann University, proud student of Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, or the Free Speech TV bumper sticker. Those three options are available to you with a $20 gift. With a $50 gift, there's the Free Speech TV seed bomb. You can celebrate Earth Day every day. With a $75 gift, there's the Free Speech TV hat, or the Free Speech TV mug, and only available from Free Speech TV and only available here. Although I have occasionally seen one for sale on eBay, so you never know. With a $100 gift, there's the Free Speech TV will plant a tree for reforestation on your behalf. With a $120 gift, the only way on earth, unless you're one of my next door neighbors, to get an autographed copy. And even I'm not even hanging out with my neighbors yet, but to get an autographed copy of The Hidden History of Big Brother in America, how the death of privacy and the rise of surveillance threaten us and our democracy, is to make a $120 contribution right now to Free Speech TV at 877-378-8669. And I think you will find this book shocking, enlightening, and valuable, useful. Protect yourself and your computers. Or with a $120 gift, there's the Free Speech TV Solidarity t-shirt. With a $240 gift, we have two choices now. There's the basic choice of join our meet and greet, hang out with me and more or less a dozen other people for an hour on Zoom, and we can talk about whatever's on your mind, whatever you want to talk about. But now Free Speech TV has a brand new premium. It is the Banned Book Box. And not only can you get this with a $240 one-time gift, but more importantly, into our theme of this week of regular monthly contributions, you can get it by just signing up with a $20 gift and telling Free Speech TV, continue taking that $20 out of my credit card every month until I tell you to stop, or for a year. You know, $20 a month for a year is $240. That math even I can do, and the banned book box is really cool. It's got three of the top most frequently banned books in America. The Bluest Eye, a novel by Toni Morrison. Mouse, which is an illustrated graphic novel that's based on the author's parents' experience of living in Nazi Germany. Or Beyond Magenta, Transgender Teens Speak Out. This is by Susan Kuklin, or Kuklin, Kuklin. My apologies for not knowing how to pronounce it. And the story of being trans in America. This is important stuff. You're seeing, you know, 3 different really important perspectives that Republicans in state houses across the United States don't want you to see. So that's available to you with a $240 one-time gift or a $20 a month commitment for a year. The banned book box from Free Speech TV. And with a $1,000 gift, get in line to come here and hang out with us in Portland in our funky little studio. But here we are in this extraordinary time where there's literally a war going on for democracy, for the survival of Ukraine's democracy. There is, you know, the autocracies of the world getting together. We've got within the United States now the Republican Party moving toward autocracy very, very rapidly, toward full-blown fascism, frankly, in my opinion. And the Democratic Party having a really substantial awakening, which we're seeing in this administration, and the Progressive Caucus becoming the new power brokers within the Democratic Party in Washington, D.C., and in state houses around the country. So there was never a better time to contribute to Free Speech TV than now and help keep progressive media going. 877-378-8669. Our 1-hour free podcast recaps our show, and it's available wherever fine podcasts are found. And we have the full 3-hour podcast available over at thomhartmann.com if you want to really support our program. So if you want to know what the Republicans are for, you'll recall, you know, President Biden recently in his 1-year anniversary of becoming president speech said that, you know, who would have imagined that all they were in favor of doing was just obstructing anything I'm doing. And then he went on to say, what are the Republicans for? What does Mitch McConnell stand for? Chris Sununu, the governor of New Hampshire, actually went and talked to the number of Republican senators when he was thinking about running for the Senate, asked them, you know, what are you guys doing? And they said, we're just here basically obstructing Biden. That's all we're doing. And Sununu said, screw that. I'm not going to run for the Senate then. He said they were all, for the most part, content with the speed at which they weren't doing anything. It bothered me that they were okay with that. So then, you know, Mitch McConnell got asked by an NBC, Leanne Caldwell at NBC, what are you guys going to do if you get elected? And McConnell said, I'll tell you after the election. This is nuts. We got a video about it over at thomhartmann.com. Check it out. Welcome back. Picking up your phone calls, Tom in Morgantown, West Virginia. Hey, Tom, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom, first-time caller. Love your show.
Thank you.
Hey, I've got a bit of a harebrained idea, so bear with me. I think Moldova should declare war on Romania, send a small squad across the border, shoot up a stop sign, equip mainly with white flags and maybe a small caliber weapon or two. And NATO should then roll in and win a war against Moldova, go all the way to their eastern border.
Hey, why not have Ukraine do that against Poland?
Too late for that.
It really is, yeah. But I get your point.
I agree with the conventional wisdom that NATO is way too strong for a rational Putin to do anything to.
Yeah.
But Moldova is weak. And
not a NATO member. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and they also have that territory between Moldova and Ukraine, which is heavily populated by Russian-speaking people, and and keeps asserting its independence. It's sort of like eastern Oregon and western Idaho kind of thing. And
I understand there may even be some Russian troops there. Is that correct or no?
that's my understanding as well, although I can't verify that. Yeah, it may well be. And there, it's interesting. There's a TV show, FBI International, that's on Prime. I don't know what network it's coming out of, but Louise and I were watching it on Prime the other day. We try to take an hour every evening and just watch something stupid that doesn't involve, what I have to do for a living, because, it just can make your brain explode after a while. And we were watching this one, and it was about that region of Moldova, and about, how they were trying to break away from Moldova, and they were, anti-Ukraine, and they were trying to create a Russian state and all. And it was like, whoa, this is, and this, obviously, this show was made like 2-3 years ago, it was maybe much longer than that. So it was fast. That's how I learned about that territory. And then I Googled it. I thought, did they just make this country up? Because it's got a really funny name, like, Borderstan or something. And no, it's real. It's actually there. So anyhow, Tom, I got to move on, but thank you for the call.
I'll call back and commiserate about Manchin some other time. I've written to him multiple times,
all right,
and I have some interesting responses I'd like to share with you maybe.
Okay, yeah, next time you call. Tom, thanks a lot for watching us there from West Virginia on Free Speech TV. I appreciate it. Joy in Newman, Illinois. Hey, Joy, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. It's such a pleasure to speak with you. I've been listening to you since I lived in the western suburb of Chicago many years ago.
Great.
I'm 83 years old, and I've listened to you all these years. First of all, it is just heartbreaking about Ukraine. But you look in history, you had Hitler, Kim Jong-un, and Putin, and Trump, all the same cloth. Yeah. But what I'm calling about is something that's irritated me for a while here, and especially after all that's gone on with the Supreme Court in regard to birth control and abortion. And, why is it always a woman's responsibility for this problem, even in case of rape and incest? There's two words that have never come up in regard to any of this. And I think it would be a good idea to bring these two words out there. One is called sperm banks, and the other is vasectomies. It's if you had vasectomies done, for men, and had sperm banks, so if they wanted to have children, they would have that availability. But women wouldn't be in a situation where it's all their responsibility, if they're raped or they have a job and they can't afford to have children, and they don't want to have children for that reason or whatever reason.
Yeah.
So
all of that assumes a certain level of intentionality, and having been young myself once, I think intentionality is not usually, the prime directive when it comes to, hey baby, or whatever.
It's true, but it's true, but that part's true, but that doesn't solve the problem of these, unwanted births and children that people don't want.
Yeah.
And I'm a mother of two and a granddaughter and so forth, and it was wonderful having my children, but not everybody's in the same position, and especially with people that have been raped, or with incest and being forced to have babies, and they don't want to have birth control, so. Right. It's really, I don't know, but it's something that irritates me. And
yeah, I'm with you, Joy. And what it really boils down to is a theological, or you could frame it scientifically, which is what the Supreme Court tried to do. Particularly in Planned Parenthood v. Casey, when they came up with, they expanded on the 3 trimesters. But it's really a debate about when life begins. At what point does a mass of cells growing in a woman's uterus, or even, one cell fertilized in her fallopian tubes, at what point does that become a human being? And therefore is entitled to protections of law designed to protect human beings. And you've got the Catholic position and the position of a number of other, religious people, and not just Christianity, by the way, this is around the world, who say that life begins at the moment of conception. Or you could really even take it further. The original Catholic position was life begins at the moment of marriage or at the moment of intention, and therefore you can't even use birth control because you are thwarting the will of God. And then, on the other end of the spectrum, you got people who say life begins when a fetus is viable, when it can live outside the womb, which was at the end of roughly 2 months, and now has been moved back a couple of weeks from that, because of science. But it's a debate that's not going to go away because it's grounded in belief. But
if vasectomy was something that was if vasectomy was something that was put out there that needed to be done, that would protect that problem would never be there.
I'm a fan of vasectomies, Joy. I had one after our third child was born. Louise went through 4 pregnancies. She had a miscarriage, and we have 3 children. And I went and in fact, our dialogue went something like this. Louise was like, I had the babies. You can have the vasectomy. And I can't argue with that. I was there for all 3 deliveries. In fact, I delivered the last 2, and we had home births, or we had a home birth for our second. And in a birthing center for our third. Anyhow, Joyce, I need to move along, but thank you for the call. It's a great point. Thank you very much. Great talking with you. Clifton in St. Louis. Hey, Clifton, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. I've called here before, and I want to start this conversation by saying that this is all a tragic diversion. There should be no conversation other than climate change. Now, to the current diversion.
Okay. Well, I think the current diversion ties into climate change hugely. I mean, keep in mind, 40% of Europe's energy is fossil fuels coming from Russia. 55% of Germany's natural gas is coming from Russia. 40% of Russia's revenue is coming from fossil fuels. Now we're discovering that Russian oligarchs are funding Republican politicians who deny climate change.
And that's just the point I called to talk about fascism. Fascism is something that's inbred in all politics today. People might not recognize, especially the poor people in America, you're working against your own self-interest when you say the Republicans or the Democrats this, okay? The problem is that fascism is running our country, okay? If you look at the polls, there's not one thing that's polled that's being taken care of in Washington that the people are in favor of. Everything is geared toward the businesses. And I also wanted to say this, and I'll get off. The war that's currently going on
in Ukraine
is good for business, okay? If we weren't sending tons and tons of aid to those people, we would just turn our backs. In order to do so,
I don't think this is being driven by business, Clifton. The amount of money that's going to American weapons manufacturers for Ukraine is insignificant compared to the overall military budget, which is more than half of all our federal spending.
Yeah, but they're still making money off of it.
Yeah, they're making money off of it. But you've got a $3 trillion federal budget. You got $1.5 trillion going to the Defense Department, and we're talking a couple $100 million, or maybe even a few $1 billion going to Ukraine. I get it that the military contractors should not be profiteering off war. They should not be allowed to lobby for wars. They shouldn't be promoting wars. There should be. The Pentagon needs to be audited. It has literally never, ever been audited. There's massive graft and corruption and all of that. But I really think that the American response, bringing weapons into Ukraine to the Ukraine conflict, is not to increase McDonnell Douglas's profits. It's the fact that a sister democracy is under attack by an autocratic oligarchy.
Well, then why don't we go to all renewables and cut off the oil?
Well, that's what Joe Biden tried to do. I mean, he proposed $500 billion to renewabilize America, and every single Republican, many of them taking money apparently from Russian oligarchs, and all of them taking money from fossil fuel billionaires and their buddies, and 2 Democrats, Manchin and Sinema, said, no, we're not going to let you do that. So, they're trying their best, Clifton. I mean, they're doing their best.
But fascism rules.
Yeah, I get it. Clifton, thank you for the call. We have problems here in the United States. We have a lot of problems. And frankly, I'm of the opinion that the core of most of our problems is found with the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court's corrupt decisions saying that billionaires, oligarchs in America can own politicians. But I still don't think we're a fascist state.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
That said, I think that if Donald Trump had held on to the White House, we would be a fascist state right now. That's how close we are. And welcome back. Percy in Greenwich City, Illinois. Am I saying that right?
You are.
Hey, Percy,
Mr.
what's
Hartman.
up?
How are you today? How are you today, Mr. Hartman?
I am well, thank you. How about you?
Good. Well, I'm doing fine. I think I have like two parts. One, it seems to me that our most serious problem is how we've allowed pundits or people like Rush Limbaugh, and I know he's gone, but he's been replaced by so many similar voices on the conservative right. And nobody is able to control these people. I have a very close friend, Mr. Hartman. He and I graduated from high school. He's a very successful businessman, but he only listens to Fox News.
Yeah. And
no matter what sort of information I send him, he doesn't look at videos, don't read material. He'll just quote Tucker Carlson and the like. So one question is, how can we complain about disinformation coming from China or Russia when our major source of disinformation is in the United States?
You're talking
so the second
Fox
question
News and
I
right-wing
have,
hate radio?
Sir?
You're talking Fox News and right-wing hate radio?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And of course, the question is, how do we get control of that problem if we can? Because it seemed to me we're just allowing people to internally destroy the republic. So the second question that I have is, why have we gotten to a point where the executive branch nor the legislative branch are being held accountable? We've got the 147 members of Congress who voted not to certify the election. We have Republicans threatening DOJ. Why can't these people be charged for circumventing or trying to disrupt or destroy the republic? And the last point, and I've raised
well,
this
let me just deal with these two, Percy, before I run out of memory cells here. With regard to the right-wing media dominance, I think that it's time to look at the Sherman Antitrust Act. It's time to break up some of these giant monopolies, particularly in radio, and also bring back the limits on ownership of television, radio stations, and newspapers that were in the law up until 1996. I think that Telecommunications Act of '96 did mind-boggling amounts of damage to our media landscape. With regard to the accountability of members of the executive and legislative branches, we have accountability. It's called elections.
Mr. Hartman, what was that act that you referred to?
Telecommunications Act of 1996.
Okay.
And just look up that and media ownership rules, and you'll figure out everything I'm talking about. It was an abomination. Percy, I'm sorry we're out of time. I got to run, but look forward to future conversations. Thanks a lot for the call.
Okay.
We'll be right back. It's 10 minutes before the hour. Hey, thanks so much for sharing our program and for reaching out to our stations and sponsors and letting them know that you're listening. It really means a lot to us. The New York Times has put together just an amazing graphic where they took all the record temperatures from last year, from 2021, and put the red ones being hot and blue ones being cold, put them as little dots on a map of the United States. And it sure looks to me like what we're seeing is the collapse of the jet stream. If you watch weather shows on TV and things like that, what you see is, some very off. Well, we saw this, for example, with that cold snap last a year ago, February, where the jet stream just kind of drooled all the way down, carried Arctic air all the way down into, southern Texas and northern Mexico, froze Texas up, shut down their power systems and things like that. And it's blocking the movement of air here in the Pacific Northwest, and thus we're getting these massive heat waves. I think that we all need to keep an eye on this. I've got a video about it over at thomhartmann.com. You can check it out there. That got very, very hot in my ears there. Thank you very much. Welcome back. Roy in Ontario, Canada. Hey, Roy, what's on your mind today?
Hey, good to speak with you, Tom. Just a little follow-up on Moldova, what your previous caller was talking about. If we need further proof that Russia will not stop at Ukraine, that separatist region, by the way, in Moldova, it's called Transnistria.
Transnistria, thank you. You're right.
That's right. And very recently, their parliament or legislature, whatever you want to call it, openly called for the territory to be absorbed by Russia, very much like the separatist regions in Ukraine. And much like those separatist regions, they have a large Russian-speaking population and are very hostile towards people who speak Moldovan, people who speak Romanian. So it's the similarities are there, absolutely.
Yeah. Is that on the? I said earlier that Transnistria is, correct my pronunciation if it's wrong, Roy, is on the border of Ukraine and Poland. It's on the border of Ukraine and Romania? Did I have that right? Okay. Yeah, I looked on the map after I saw the TV show about it and looked it up. But thank you for correcting me, and thanks for the information. I really appreciate it. It's always good to keep things straight. Yeah, go ahead.
Another fact about Transnistria that should really show you their ambition. They're the only country or only territory in the world that still retains the Soviet hammer and sickle as part of their flag.
Oh, wow. That's remarkable. Roy, thank you. Thank you very much. I truly appreciate it. Holly in Washington, D.C. Hey, Holly, what's up?
Well, I just wanted to present something in the conversation about the war that I haven't heard yet. Mm-hmm. And I'd like just to hear your hit on it. So, Trump had 4 years of selling top security secrets. We know that's what he's doing. I mean, you just know it by his character.
Sure.
And what that 15 boxes represents to me is what he hadn't gotten paid for yet.
I think that's possible. I want to know how many Russian spies and other, similar folks came down to Mar-a-Lago to go through those 15 boxes.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that Biden administration has only been there, 14 months, and to try to connect the dots of how compromised, where the compromises are, and what any of our adversaries could possibly do to this country without firing a weapon, that we have to take into account in any decision that's being made.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think it's significant.
Oh, Trump, not only that, Trump shut down the Office of, Internet Security. It wasn't called that, but, that Obama put in the White House. He shut that thing down when he came into office. And everybody has forgotten now, but 4 years ago, the big news story was they've discovered that the Russians are inside the Treasury Department's computers and inside the Commerce Department's computers. Steve Mnuchin and Wilbur Ross's organizations, and God only knows where else they are, because we can't figure it out, because it wasn't our government who discovered it. It was one of these private security firms. And that was because Trump shut down, he closed, he opened the door to Russia. And he kept it that way for 4 years. And then in his fourth year, he fired Chris Krebs, the head of cybersecurity for the Department of Homeland Security. So it's like, hey, Russia, come on in. I mean, we had this giant party here all this time. So anyhow, I got to move along, Holly, but thank you for the call. And thank you for your points. I appreciate it. Okay. Good to hear from you. Chuck in Indianapolis. Hey, Chuck, you say the Pentagon is being audited? Really?
Yes, it is. In fact, in FY20, fully 35% of $3.1 trillion financial portfolio has received an unqualified audit opinion.
Well, it's a start.
Insofar as I know, only one entity has received a qualified report. So 45% of the DoD financial portfolio has a clean audit report.
Well, that's very impressive. I'd like to learn more about that, Chuck. Any sources you recommend?
Well, I went out to DOD.gov and found it. And plus, I've got 40 years working in the Department of Defense in financial management. This is something I worked for 40 years of my life.
Cool. Okay, Chuck, thank you. Thanks for correcting me if I am in fact wrong. I appreciate it. We will wrap up the show at this point. Tomorrow's another day, right? Thanks so much for being with us today, and thanks for your continuing activism and concern and care, your prayers for peace in this world. And let's not forget, Ukraine is not the only conflict point. There's famine right now in Yemen as a result of the Saudi attacks there. We still have problems in this hemisphere. Haiti is in crisis. So let's just not forget. And in Afghanistan, you got 20 million people on the edge of famine. So get out there, get active, tag you're it, say a prayer.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.
These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are HelloFresh, the #1 meal kit delivery service. More info at HelloFresh.com, code TOM. The Hidden History of Big Brother in America, How the Death of Privacy and the Rise of Surveillance Threaten Us and Our Democracy by Thom Hartmann. More information at all book outlets. Wild Alaskan Company, 100% sustainable wild-caught seafood delivered right to your door. More info at wildalaskancompany.com/Tom. Cozy Earth, better sleep, better you. More info at cozyearth.com, promo code TOM. The latest views and opinions from U.S. politics and other fascinating subjects too, including cutting-edge science reports at hartmanreport.com. And Dinovite, a whole food supplement for your pet's immune system. More info at dinovite.com.
We take life back!